from time to time. 83 this afternoon. Count on clear skies tonight as we drop to a low of 64, and then tomorrow mostly sunny and hotter. I'm forecasting a high of 90. Still trending rain-free all the way through Thursday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
What's happening today? Here's your first dose of the news you need to know. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on NewsTalkSTL.
All right, another day of riots in Los Angeles. Where do we go from here? We've got the update for you in just a little bit here. Hey, happy Tuesday. Mike Ferguson, as always. Thanks for making NewsTalkSTL part of your morning. We had a good conversation, as we always do on Mondays, with Congressman Bob Onder. And if you didn't catch that, here's what he had to say, not just about what's happening in Los Angeles, but how about what Washington, D.C. is trying to do with our money? Because did you notice the headlines are all about the riots in Los Angeles, and suddenly nobody's watching the money in the media again in Washington, D.C.? Here's that conversation.
Governor Gavin Newsom says, I'm going to file a lawsuit. Karen Bass, the mayor and the former congresswoman, they say the Trump administration is causing all of this chaos. They aren't pointing out anything to do with the illegal aliens or the law enforcement of it. Do you support the president's decision to send in the National Guard? And either way, where do we go from here?
Yeah, good morning, guys. Yes, I support the president's decision 100%. Look, it's very clear that the local authorities, the mayor, and the governor have absolutely no intention of enforcing immigration law. So when you have riots breaking out, when you have interstates being blocked, when you have police officers being assaulted, when you have cars being burned and destroyed, you have to restore order. And although it is highly unusual for the president to have to call out the National Guard, usually that's done in cooperation with the governor, it's very clear that the governor has no intention of enforcing immigration law. And many officials, including the mayor of LA, seem to be encouraging continued rioting. So the president did the right thing, and I hope and pray that order will be restored really soon. And I hope and pray that governors who swear to uphold and defend the Constitution, just like I and every other elected official does, I hope they will abide by their oath of office and start to assist, not deter, the enforcement of immigration law.
Well, given the footage, good morning, by the way, Gabe Pfeiffer here. Given the footage that we're seeing coming out of LA, it looks like going to be a disaster there for a little while. And now we have had a local disaster. Now it was natural with the tornadoes. Wanted to get your take on the status of disaster relief in the area.
Yeah. Well, at the state level, Governor Keough's office has been seeking a disaster determination from the administration. It's my understanding from communicating with the governor's staff over the weekend that information, that application is fully complete. I mean, look, we are exhausting state and local resources. This tornado in North St. Louis County and City is bigger by an order of magnitude than the Joplin tornado. And my office is reaching out to the administration as well to try to get that disaster declaration so that we can get help to people who so urgently need it.
We're visiting with Congressman Bob Onder, and Congressman, along the lines of the funding and everything. I want to ask you about the Elon Musk versus Donald Trump spat here over the last few days. But before we get to that, that all came from the spending and the DOGE recommendations and the big, beautiful bill and all of those sorts of things. You have received the rescission package recommendation from the White House, or at least the first one. He's indicating there could be more. There are some big cuts on there. It's kind of a drop in the bucket overall, but at least it's a start. What's the appetite in the House to deal with those and actually make those cuts now that the president has sent them over?
Yeah, I am hopeful it will be the first of many, many rescission packages. What a rescission bill, for your listeners, is that it is a way that the administration, the president, can request that money that Congress has appropriated be cut out of the budget, which I think is really badly necessary. And in this case, the rescission package includes first PBS and NPR funding cuts. I mean, PBS and NPR have just become left-wing propaganda outlets. They are in many ways more biased than MSNBC, because MSNBC is a commentary station. Everyone knows it, whereas PBS, the taxpayers are funding it. NPR, taxpayers are funding it, and we get a constant barrage of left-wing propaganda. So there's no reason why we should have a state-run media outlet. The rescission package cuts PBS and NPR. And then secondly, and the larger cuts are in foreign aid, specifically USAID, and then various UN agencies. I mean, the United States pays way, way, way more than its fair share toward the UN, and too many times this money, federal taxpayer money, goes to fund the woke agenda abroad. Remember the Trump administrative executive orders cutting out money for transgender operas in Peru and Sesame Street in Iraq. There is so much waste and abuse in government. I look forward to the rescission packages hopefully being on the floor of the U.S. House this week. And then over in the Senate, rescission bills can be passed with a simple majority, so we don't have to overcome the Democrat filibuster. So I'm very hopeful that the rescission procedure will be a good way to rein in some wasteful and even counterproductive federal spending.
Bob, I'm with you on seeing the rescission process as being, I think, a very useful tool, especially with that low threshold in the Senate. I think that's kind of going to be key. But what are the limits to what can be cut out of the budget with this process? Because we know some of the biggest money sinks are in the entitlements, and I'm not sure you can make the types of reforms in rescission as you can as you need to in the full budget procedure. So how is it going to work? What are the limitations here?
Yeah, that is 100% true, that rescissions can only be so-called discretionary spending, not mandatory spending, as you call it, entitlements. So that's why the big, beautiful bill presented and continues to present a unique opportunity. Cuts in the big, beautiful bill, which is a reconciliation package. I know this is a lot of stuff is in the weeds. Yeah. That's where we can make funding to some of the big ticket so-called mandatory programs. And that's why it's so critically important that we reform Medicaid in the big, beautiful bill. And of course, what we're doing is cutting illegal aliens off of Medicaid. We're requiring eligibility checks, and we're instituting work requirements for able-bodied working age adults. I honestly think we should be doing even more than that. There are a lot of games that blue states and some red states use to game the system to get more Medicaid dollars from the federal government. But that's right. I think we need to, with a $2 trillion debt, a $2 trillion deficit, $36 trillion debt. We need to use all the tools in our toolbox to cut the debt.
Congressman Bob Onder's with us. Congressman, I just got a minute or so left, but I got to ask, the Elon Musk, Donald Trump kind of slap fight that happened, it just seemed like a divorce with petty complaints against each other. What's your take on that? And is that actually going to affect the work being done in Washington, D.C.?
Well, I hope not. I hope they will reconcile. I mean, really, we're talking about the two of the most talented businessmen in the world. Elon Musk, the most successful business person in the world, one of the most brilliant people ever to have in any way gotten involved in government. And, and guess what? He's finding it very frustrating to make the cuts, make the changes that he thinks we so badly need. I feel his pain, but I do disagree with Mr. Musk about the big, beautiful bill. I think it is a good piece of policy. It could be a heck of a lot better. We could be making many more cuts, but there's no reason to turn against Donald Trump over that. And at the end of the day, it will be President Trump's leadership that moves us in the right direction, not only avoiding a $4.5 trillion tax cut, but getting border security funded, restoring sensible energy policy, and ending items in the woke agenda like transgender clinic funding. I hope whatever his thinking about the big, beautiful bill, I would love to see Elon Musk back on the team again. All
right. Congressman Bob Onder, really appreciate the update and your willingness, by the way, just so everybody knows, Bob, I want to point out that you never approve or disapprove questions. You answer whatever I send or whatever we say. And I really appreciate that because there are some people that still try to negotiate that. So I just want to point that out.
Wimps.
All right, going to get things going here in just a couple of minutes. And don't forget, we've got at the top of the hour, we've got our information segment coming your way, national news and what's going on around here in St. Louis. A little bit later on today, right around 7:05, Eric Schmitt, U.S. Senator Eric Schmitt, turned baseball player, going to be with us. I'm going to explain what all of that means. He really wants to represent the baseball city of St. Louis and Missouri by extension. At the congressional baseball game. He's really excited about this. So we'll talk to him about that and a few other things going on as well. Once again, that's at 7:05 right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL. Enable our Alexa skill.
Hello.
Hey, Alexa.
Yes, I'm listening.
Play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
Report cards are a good way to show how well your kids are doing in class and where they might need improvement. We at the Show Me Institute believe schools should get grades too, so parents can see how their child's school compares to others. That's why we came up with the Missouri School Rankings Project. Click on the website moschoolrankings.org and it's all there. Rankings and letter grades for all the schools in Missouri. The rankings are based on categories such as student performance in English language arts and math, ACT scores, and graduation rates. Then we take the rankings and come up with a grade point average, just like your child has. Each school and district has a grade, and the website is easy to use. And now we've added spending data for every district, so parents, taxpayers, and policymakers can see where the money is going. Don't you want to know how your child's school stacks up? Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, more riots in LA. I like the way the national news a little bit ago. They said in that information segment, they called it another night of anarchy. I think that's really, I think, right. These things are planned.
Mm-hmm.
These are not organic. Somebody had this on the calendar probably weeks ago that this was going to happen. And you guys know that I am not the one to go into those, I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. I just think it's obvious at this point that the leftist extremists have been building up to this and have been planning it. This is not something that organically responded to raids by ICE. It's just not. And here's the thing. Should we brace ourselves for those to spread to other parts of the country? Because that's what leftists do.
Yeah, that's the worry right now. However, you can keep up to date with all this information by downloading the NewsTalkSTL social media app. It's going to be a very good way for us to keep in touch with you. You can even leave voicemail. So anybody out there that might be in the LA region, because we do surprisingly have listeners all the way out that way of the country, you can leave us a voicemail without having to worry about being put on hold, and you can let us know live updates, or you can just let us know we're doing a great or not so great job.
Yeah, and leftists are planning to spread the protest. I just saw a piece that there was a rally, because media likes to call it a rally, because rally sounds better than protest, and protest sounds better than riot. But there was one in Atlanta, and one of the most radical left-wing labor unions out there, Service Employees International Union, which has hundreds, if not thousands of members here in the St. Louis area. They're planning other events around the country. St. Louis is not on the map right now, but I would not assume that means we're not going to have anything.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility that there could be an assembly of some sort.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get into that. Chicago, your hometown, is on the list. And I've already read multiple news reports on this saying that they're trying to plan it, to time it so that they jam up as much traffic as possible. So basically make as many people's lives as miserable as they possibly can. These are not the tactics of people who want to win your vote and win your support. These are people who want to enlist you in a war, even if it's enlisting you as an enemy.
Now, I believe the term for something like that would be a coordinated attack.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
The fact that, again, all this is doing for me personally is this is why you don't give up your guns, people.
Yeah.
Because LA, Chicago, New York, all the places that are the big hotspots for this kind of activity, you know what they can't do? They make it as difficult as possible to be a law-abiding gun owner.
Yeah, and when you look at, like, for instance, Chicago, I've already seen reports saying on, and it looks like the 14th could be the date, which would be a Saturday, which doesn't make any sense. Or I'm also reading could be next Monday, this coming Monday, and they're basically saying if you can work remotely, or just call in or take that. They're already warning people, just heads up, this is going to be bad. I think it's just a matter of time before this is in St. Louis.
Yeah, I like that you say if you can work remotely, just put the riot on your Google Calendar,
right?
Because I mean, they could realistically hold these events any day of the week because we all know like they don't have jobs, they don't do anything. That's why they engage in this kind of behavior.
Well, this is their job.
Yeah, they're professional funded. We're gonna fight back, even though we had democratically lost the entire election, and that's what we're mad about.
Right. Well, and I don't even know if they even care who won or lost the election, although obviously had Kamala Harris been in there, they basically would have had their puppet. They would have had a sympathetic person in there. So in that realm, I guess they do. But I think that they are hell-bent on, basically this is a group of people who hate the country, hate the culture, these are Marxists. This isn't even just like you're a big government socialist. These are full on revolutionary minded Marxist, and they don't believe rules and constitutions and laws apply to them, which is what you're seeing in Los Angeles. And so that's why when you've got this radical leftist thinking, when they get hit back, they want to suddenly play victim. And then that's the clarion call to other leftists around the country. So wherever these other protests and riots are going to break out, it's not going to be organic. They're planning it right now.
Yeah, they cry victim while they strike you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's essentially the entire mindset of this. I just hope that the people that their job is to respond to this and to quickly and as effectively as possible put an end to this nonsense are not facing unnecessary risks because of people that think that they're the next Che Guevara,
right. who was a horrible human being,
who did
is burning,
but is idolized, is idolized by those types of people.
I've got a Che t-shirt, right?
Oh, you do?
It's got his face on the front, except it's got the big circle and slash through it. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Rachel picked it up for me at the Victims of Communism Museum in Washington, D.C.
Oh, we can get a News Talk STL event going.
I would love to go there. Yeah. So, cause they are aware of this show through there. So, but yeah, I mean, but they idolize monsters like him.
Yes.
And that's what they want all over the place. They want the discord. They want the violence, and they're counting on the good people to avoid conflict of all costs. And at some point, we're going to be in a position where that's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. And so, like, for instance, in the news dump here, just a little bit, I've got a soundbite from the Secretary of Homeland Security making it very clear that they're not backing down, because that's what they want. They want essentially a war of attrition.
Yeah.
To where the press, the reaction from, the people becomes so much pressure that they're hoping the administration or anybody like that just says, okay, this isn't worth the return on investment. We can't stop them. We need to back off and let them run roughshed. Because there's a fair question saying, you know what? Should we just let LA burn? I mean, we just give them what they want, let them burn the city down, and then don't send them a dime after that? Because honestly, they deserve it. And so I'm tempted to think that way.
I would not shed a single tear if we revoked their statehood and just allowed them to remain as a territory. If we built not only a wall, but a moat filled with alligators and other critters to keep them all stuck there. I mean, there are some very patriotic Californians that are not in the LA Bay Area, Silicon Valley areas. Sucks to suck. I'm sorry.
Exactly. I mean, they're getting, keep in mind, there are fires everywhere. And as I saw somebody point out on Twitter, I think it might've been AJ Mole, he retweeted something Gavin Newsom put out there. And he said, wait a minute, aren't you the guy who defunded fire hydrants at one point?
Yeah, he lied about being on the phone when the fires were going on. It's like, I don't believe you. Show me the phone. Oh, well, no, I'm not actually on the phone call. Like I said, it's disgusting. And
this is the war of attrition I think we're looking at. And my guess is this is going to, within the next week, be spread all over the country. Listen, if these leftist extremists out there, if you keep your protest peaceful and you don't violate the rights of somebody else, that's your First Amendment right.
Oh, yeah.
You listen, knock yourself out. I mean, literally, go ahead, feel free. But knock yourself out. Do it. That's your right. I will defend your right to do that, no matter how stupid what you're saying is. That is your right. But that's not the point of these. That's not the plan.
And that's what disappoints me is I actually would love to meet peaceful protesters that can actually articulate an entire point of like, well, here is why we think that illegal invaders are good for our country. Let us try to persuade you and not hit you with concrete slabs and bricks and fireworks and all the other nonsense. I just got a text from one of our friends of the conservative movement. There's one planned here for St. Louis. So it looks like this weekend. Hey, as Larry Connor says, ready on the right.
Yep. And it is kind of it's interesting. Hey, but thank to the person who sent this. Thank you. And this was exactly what I was going to warn people about. Could be the case a little bit later on. So I've got an update for you that I did not know I was going to have 30 seconds ago. So to that person who just sent that, thank you very much. understand that we're not on the official map, but it's coming here.
Oh, of
It's
course.
going to happen here, and it's not going to be where you think it's going to be. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. All right, it's 5:56 right now. Real quick here. I want to get into this as well. It's not just drama at this point. Sheriff Alfred Montgomery's incompetence, the wrong headache at the wrong time for city leaders. You know, if this were happening any other time when the city didn't have such huge things to deal with, honestly, I would just keep laughing at it because we've had our fun with this.
Mhm.
This is beyond getting bad.
Yeah.
This guy needs to be removed from office. I mean, such a small little office creating distractions and headaches that are so unnecessary. And you know, I'm not sympathetic to the government of St. Louis. I mean, these people are on the far left, but this is just beyond nonsense. So I've got a little bit more information for you in the news dump, and then we're going to go into more depth on it at 6:20. But as I am just finding out right now, looks like we are going to have some of these protests in the St. Louis area. Hopefully they remain peaceful. I mean, that I'm going to be as optimistic as I possibly can. But once again, to that person, one of our friends in the conservative movement who just sent me the links and sent me the links from the left.
Oh, wow.
That just sent them there. So it's going to happen. It's going to happen here. Hopefully we get the nonviolent version of it, but you need to be prepared. You need to be warned. And I'll tell you all about it in just a bit.
Dr. Randy Tobler here, and I know that when you're looking for a dentist, you have to make sure you choose a dental practice that's compatible with you and the needs of your family. Well, I'd like to tell you about my dentist, Dr. Dan Cusimano, and his partner, Megan Dwyer, and their team at Advanced Dentistry at St. Charles. The great team at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles can accommodate all of your cosmetic and restorative needs because their passion is general dentistry. Implants, crowns, bridges, even dentures. That what you need the most is what they'll provide in a personalized, focused way. And they can provide therapeutic and cosmetic options like Botox and dermal fillers. Get to know them and all they have to offer by calling 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
That's Advanced Dentistry Now, 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Speaker Tim Jones, whoosh my speaker.
Why did the men and women who sacrificed and died for this country get one day each year, and those who have to tell us what their sexuality is get an entire month?
So instead of MAGA, they can be MAFA. Make America fabulous again.
Vic Porcelli, live and local weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
This whole thing's got me thinking about how privileged I've been. America's a wonderful country. If I were a black man, I'd be furious. We're getting frustrated.
Number one for live and local
Conservative talk.
There are certain issues that we need improvement. They would rather have this country on its knees than be successful.
news, analysis, opinion.
We have common sense, and the Democrats have none.
101.9 and 94.1.
And I appreciate the discussion.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. To get this under control, more members of the military heading to Los Angeles at the direction of the commander-in-chief.
The Pentagon has deployed about 700 Marines to L.A. to help National Guard members respond to protests over immigration raids. The Marines are being deployed from their base in the Southern California desert to protect federal property and personnel. Meanwhile, President Trump authorized the deployment of another 2,000 National Guard members, even as California filed a lawsuit against the administration for trampling on the state's authority. Greg Clugston, Washington.
The president says it's imperative that law and order be restored to L.A., where it was a fourth night of unrest. New York and Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Austin, Texas, among other cities that have seen similar but smaller scale protests. Health Secretary Kennedy has fired every member of a CDC vaccine advisory panel. Kennedy says clean sweep is needed to reestablish public confidence in vaccine science. A massive Russian drone and missile attack leaves at least 2 people dead, 13 wounded in Ukraine.
Journalists of the Associated Press heard explosions, including the buzzing of drones in different parts of Kyiv for hours. Plumes of smoke were visible over the city as air defense forces worked to shoot down drones and missiles on Tuesday morning. Ukrainian residents took shelter and slept deep underground during the hours-long attack.
Correspondent Charles Yaladesma, President Volodymyr Zelensky calls it one of the biggest such attacks in the more than 3-year-old war. 8 people killed along with a gunman. A shooting at a high school in Graz, Austria. As of now, few details are available, and right now there's been no word on a motive for the attack. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Let's see, if something costs less, a lot less, but people are actually happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MetaShare. Maybe you've heard joining MetaShare can save you or your family up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true. People are just happier with it. They love being part of something that reflects and promotes their values and what they believe in. MetaShare works, too. It's been around for 30 years now, and members have shared more than $7 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network, so yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care, whether you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan that you're happy with. Here you go. You can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. It's 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. 844-41-BIBLE.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Downright gorgeous today, but warmer flow kicks in tomorrow. We could be looking at the hottest day of the year so far on Wednesday. But first, tons of sunshine today, low humidity. There will be some Canadian wildfire smoke in our sky from time to time. 83 this afternoon. Count on clear skies tonight as we drop to a low of 64, and then tomorrow mostly sunny and hotter. I'm forecasting a high of 90. Still trending rain-free all the way through Thursday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Onder Law. Call for a free consultation because winning is what we do at Onder Law. Call 314 or 618-9000.
Hey, Jamie Ullman here for my good friend Harry Parker and the ultimate seafood dining experience at Gulf Shores, GulfShoresRestaurantandGrill.com. Gulf Shores offering a unique dining experience with a vast, mouth-watering menu of all of your favorite delicious dishes, something for everyone's taste or palate. 3 convenient locations, Edwardville, Creve Coeur, and St. Peter's. Dine in, carry out. They've got a food truck, too. Friendly staff, looking forward to seeing you, making your dining experience one you will remember. Gulf Shores RestaurantandGrill.com.
Attention off-road enthusiasts. Iron Bear Customs has the strongest bumpers on the planet. Plus, brush guards, lift kits, and custom cages for all vehicles. Visit ironbearcustoms.com and mention Newstalk STL for 10% off. Iron Bear Customs, built tough for the toughest terrain.
Discover Patriot Powder Coating, your family-owned specialist in Pacific. From small jobs to big projects, we got you covered. Visit our showroom or call 636-551-0377. Mention Newstalk STL for 10% off.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Thank you for the opportunity to let me vent here.
Live and local.
Way to be, guys. 1019 all the way.
This is News Talk STL.
I am home.
Mike Ferguson.
We the people.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
It's not rocket science. Rocket science.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm? Get up! Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, almost a month later, federal disaster relief is finally headed to St. Louis, and a top federal officials says they're going to hit back against the rioters, and they are not pulling any punches here, literally or figuratively. And just to be clear, so leftists understand this, no, Riley Gaines does not look like a man.
Yeah. The idea that this is in question is
that
so
you
silly.
saw this, right?
I saw.
How
I watched the whole thing.
Stupid is this? Oh my goodness! 6:05 right now. Let's go ahead and jump right into the news dump here.
The morning news dump brought to you by Common Sense Rentals.
The morning news dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks, the morning news dump.
All right, $71 million in federal disaster relief money is headed to St. Louis. The Trump administration notified Governor Kehoe of that decision on Monday. Now, of that $71 million, just over $60 million will be used for individual and support for local government agencies affected by the May tornado. Now, that is in addition to whatever state funding, and that's all being considered in the special session this week. The tornado caused at least $1.6 billion in damage. And of course, we talk about the numbers and the money a lot, but remember, this took 5 lives in St. Louis.
Yeah, this was a really big deal.
Yeah.
Now, how is that money going to be directed? Do we know?
Not yet.
Okay.
That's going to have to be, brought in. It's probably, I don't know if it's going to go directly to the different agencies or directly to a city or state clearinghouse, but it finally has been approved. And basically, this is the disaster declaration.
Right.
And so it took, frankly, a lot of pressure to expedite all of this. Give credit where credit is due. Senator Josh Hawley had a lot to do with moving this process along and putting a lot of pressure put a lot of pressure on this, and Mayor Spencer has said as much, and Governor Kehoe worked hard on that as well. Okay, let's get into what's happening with the riots in Los Angeles, which, Salem News is referring to as another night of anarchy, which I think is an accurate description here. More members of the U.S. military headed to L.A. in the wake of recent violence. Here's the story.
The Pentagon has deployed about 700 Marines to L.A. to help National Guard members respond to protests over immigration raids. The Marines are being deployed from their base in the Southern California desert to protect federal property and personnel. Meanwhile, President Trump authorized the deployment of another 2,000 National Guard members, even as California filed a lawsuit against the administration for trampling on the state's authority. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got some more comments here, but basically you've got the administration doubling down on this, another 2,000 National Guard troops. And then the Marines being sent in essentially are being used to guard and protect federal facilities.
Right. Yeah. And that's their proper position. They don't need to be mingling among, the populace, because we get into that.
Then you get into posse comitatus, and we're going to get a legal analysis of all of that at 8:35.
Yeah. Yeah. So. But I'm very glad that the administration is giving no quarter here. Hashtag FAFO is trending on Twitter.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Really? All right. Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles still saying, whose fault this is? Big bad government, federal government.
Really? They did it?
Yeah.
It's their fault.
Here's what she had to say.
We were told that raids would be to look for violent criminals, people who had warrants, but I don't know how you go from a drug dealer to a Home Depot, to people's workplaces where they're just trying to make a living.
Okay, there is something to be said for Homan did say we're just going to start. He said we're going to
start with
the most violent criminals.
That's true.
So that's actually a smart tactic on Karen Bass's part to go, you said this was just for the violent criminal, but she's even backtracking from 100% opposed to this entirely to saying, well, you just said it was going to be the really bad guys. These are just the poor people trying to make a living.
Yeah, and that's the only tactic she has left that could carry any water, I think. But here's the thing: drug deals happen at Home Depots too.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know this, but maybe it's just me having grown up in the hood. It doesn't matter what the store is. I know of people who were dealing drugs out of the drive-through window during their normal work hours as they were the drive-through window attendant. So if a federal agent showed up at the McDonald's and they're not just looking, it's like, oh no, we're just trying to make a living here. You're drug dealers too. I'm sorry. So look,
but the bottom line is they're just saying this is where the illegals are. This is where we're going.
Well, and there's also the fact that serving warrants. I mean, a deportation order is a warrant.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yep. Secretary Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was on Hannity talking about this. You want to talk about not backing down? Here's what the secretary had to say last night on Fox News.
We're going to use the authority that he has as president of the United States to conduct these operations. And the more that people conduct violence against law enforcement officers, boy, we're going to hit them back, and we're going to hit them back harder than we ever have before.
Yes.
Here we go.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think we're going around the country. I think we're going.
And look, I'm a black man. I'm appreciative of the civil rights movement, and it pains me to see how, the peaceful protesters were treated back then, but bring back the fire hoses and the dogs. Bring them back. Bring them back. These people are throwing rocks as they're not in their Sunday best walking down the street singing "We Shall Overcome." Right. They're throwing fire bombs at our police. Bring back the fire hoses and the dogs.
Yeah, and you put out the fires at the same time.
Exactly.
So it serves a dual purpose. Yeah. All right, she has lost confidence in the sheriff. That's the word directly from Mayor Kara Spencer. I want to go into this a little more depth here in just a little bit, about 10 minutes. That comes after the city's public safety department confirms that Sheriff Alfred Montgomery's office refused multiple requests to transport inmates to and from medical care, despite his public promise to do exactly that. He said he was not going to do it. He got called out. He said, okay, I'm going to do it. And then when they said, okay, do it, he said, no, I'm not going to do it.
And by it, we mean his job.
Your job.
That's pretty much the only job. You have one job.
Yeah.
This is one of those positions in government where there is actually basically one job. So, and he's decided not to do it.
Yeah.
Get rid of this guy. He's a clown.
And here's the thing. The Board of Aldermen is now considering an ordinance that reiterates in writing what duties the sheriff's department actually is responsible for.
Yes, good.
I mean, you should know your job, but this is like basically, if in a court, this is the government equivalent of a corporate public improvement or a performance improvement plan is what this is.
It's crazy that an elected official in our government needs remedial work to understand how to do their job.
Oh my goodness. All right. Also lost in all of the other headlines, President Trump's travel ban, preventing citizens or anybody else from 12 different countries from coming to the U.S. has now taken effect.
All right.
Congressman Brian Mast, he's a Republican out of Florida, was on Fox Business Channel's The Bottom Line to discuss that.
They can't ensure with the government in place who it is that's actually coming through. Just like right now, with the government of Afghanistan being the Taliban, there's no trust whatsoever that who the Taliban would offer a visa to would actually be who they say they were. You're talking about two different windows of time when you deal with Afghanistan.
Okay, so that ban mostly affects countries in Africa and the Middle East, although not exclusively. And there are partial bans on 7 others, so 19 countries in all are affected by this. Okay, so in a post on X, gymnast Simone Biles launched a personal attack on Riley Gaines.
I saw this.
Oh my goodness. Of course, Riley Gaines was talking about that Minnesota high school softball. The team that won the championship has a boy.
Yeah, as the pitcher.
Has the pitcher
who
just basically was blowing away all the girls. And Riley Gaines criticized it, and Simone Biles just kind of went off on her. So Riley Gaines was on the Will Cain show on Fox saying, Biles, you know what? All you've got are insults. Here's what Gaines said.
Venom is all the other side really has, especially, I mean, a lot of the cultural chaos, but especially the issue of men and women's sports. But even outside of the personal attacks, like I'm secure enough to, those things don't bother me. Simone Biles saying I'm built like a man.
Okay, so Biles called Gaines a sore loser in that post and basically, said, yeah, you're built like a man. Okay, just for research purposes, I looked up Riley Gaines' pictures in that ultra right calendar, swimsuit calendar.
Because there was a swimsuit calendar.
I have a journalistic duty to double check.
Look, is it true,
right,
that she looks like a man, or that she's bodily compared to a man?
Just because I want to be thorough,
yes,
I can confirm Riley Gaines does not look like a man,
and I can second that confirmation.
That's right, because
we have journalistic integrity.
We have journalistic integrity. I needed to double check.
Yeah, it's just weird that they're all against, quote unquote, transphobia when it's against actual trans people. But when they want to weaponize that against somebody that they disagree with, all of a sudden that's completely
the
fine.
Insult is you look like a man.
It's kind of funny. Yeah, it really is. The hypocrisy is on full display.
Yeah. All right. Cardinals had the lead. Then they blew it. St. Louis loses the first game of the series to the Blue Jays. Took 10 innings last night. Final score at Busch Stadium was 5-4. Today's game starts at 6:45.
Don't try to make me stop. No inspiration. You have the soul so dark it is no more. And all at once depart. No destination. Making cold my heart to fight your war.
Yo, this is Vic. All during the month of June, Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every weekday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Brought to you by Best Buy Flooring, Patriot Heating and Cooling, and DG Firearms.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community, Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
There are few things that give us the opportunity for that just personal pride in our life's work, the way that our home is and the way that it looks. And there are so many fantastic, whether you live in an old neighborhood or a newer neighborhood here in the St. Louis area, so much creativity and so much work is available to see. I'm proud of my community. I'm proud of my neighborhood. I'm proud of my home. And Lemay Concrete Block Company can get your home to that next level. Mike Ferguson here for my friends at Lemay Concrete Block. Regardless of your project, I mean, maybe it's a garden wall, maybe it's a retaining wall, maybe you just need some ready mix concrete or some masonry blocks or whatever it is. Lemay Block is going to get your project from the concept to the completion to the neighbors walking by going, I wish our home looked like that. You ever done that? You ever taken those walks through the neighborhoods around St. Louis? Doesn't matter whether you're in Clayton or whether you're in U City, whether you're in Ladue, maybe you're in St. Charles, and you see that fantastic brickwork that St. Louis is famous for. Well, Lemay Block Company has been supplying St. Louis since 1947. So over 75 years, the experts at Lemay Block have been beautifying St. Louis by equipping you to get the job done. Even if you just have an idea, go check them out, lemayblock.com, or you can give them a call at 314-638-9940 right here in St. Louis and bring them the idea saying, this is what I think I want to do. They'll tell you, listen, here's what you need. Here's even how to get it done. They will walk you through the process so that you can beautify your home, you can strengthen your home, you can strengthen your landscape, and you can be the home that people drive by or walk by and they're jealous of. I mean, it's fun walking through some of these neighborhoods and seeing that beautiful detail of the landscaping and on the homes. And most of the time in St. Louis, that is brickwork, that is block work, that is concrete work, and it complements those trees, it complements that landscaping. And lemayblock.com is your go-to source for that. They've got pictures of everything that they have helped St. Louisans do, and you can click right there and just go through there. It is really, really beautiful, and your home can look like that. So check them out, lemayblock.com, or just go to your GPS and type in Lemay Block, and it will take you right there. Once again, got any questions, give them a call, 314-638-9940, and be sure to tell them that you heard Mike bragging about them on the radio.
June is packed with incredible experiences in beautiful Augusta, Missouri. Mark your calendars. June 20th brings the unforgettable Taste of Tradition dinner, a 5-course culinary journey with wine pairings right in the town square. June 21st and 22nd, go behind the scenes at local wineries during the exclusive AVA Expo. And wrap up the month, June 29th, with insider secrets on our winemakers panel. All in Augusta, Missouri. Get your tickets now at augusta-chamber.org. That's augusta-chamber.org.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hi, this is Jefferson County Councilman Billy Crow with a reminder to check out our new show, Jeffco Patriot Radio, this and every Sunday at high noon. Now, back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
All right, let's get to this here in just a minute. I'm starting to think the city sheriff needs an intervention or something like that.
Yes.
But I put it in a little bit earlier. I came up with the idea. This is the wrong headache at the wrong time. I mean, we're having our fun with this because it's so incompetent, but this is the last thing that the city government needs. And you know how unsympathetic I tend to be towards the city government, but this is not what they need right now. So we'll get into that here in just a second. 621. All right, quick follow up to the fact that we could have more of these protests / riots spreading around the country. David's got some thoughts on that. David, what do you think?
Hey, I didn't know Alfred Molina from Happy Days was the sheriff in the city. I thought he was dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Happy Days.
That's right. Al's. I love Happy Days.
That was a solid show.
Hey, first of all, let me say to the black guy in the room, thank God for bringing back the dogs to the fire.
Right? I miss him. At this point, I miss him.
You cannot compare the two, people. And wait a minute, Demtards. You are the guys who did it.
Yeah.
They were on the other side of the hoses back then.
Oh yeah. So they're talking about immigration. Again, guys, I hope it doesn't seem like I'm one of these guys that has a story for everything, but I'm an old man now, so I guess I've seen a lot. Well, my son went to Canada 2 years in a row to play hockey. There was a hole in the fence, so I said, son, hurry up, grab your equipment, run over there, say Canuck, and they'll think you're one of them. It was a lengthy, long, pain in the ass process where you had to fill out a student visa. And then obviously you had to go in, they stamped your visa, they checked, make sure you are who you are. They also told you as a student visa, you can't work. If you work, we'll throw you out of the country. They were very specific about what the rules were. The thing I don't understand, guys, and I say this to all of our conservative brothers and sisters, I don't want a civil war. I don't want any bloodshed. Can we just get divorced, just like parents do? You go your way, we go ours, because the only alternative, if these people keep pushing us, is unfortunately what is probably going to take place is death out in California.
Yeah, well, and they're trying. Looks like they're going to try to spread that as well. Hey, David, appreciate the call, man.
Thanks, David. Yeah, and they definitely do want to make life miserable for as many people as possible. That's kind of their modus operandi.
Mm-hmm.
And this stuff is going to spread. It's going everywhere. We even got confirmation that it may be coming this way. What should we brace for ourselves? Well, we'll get to that at 6:35. Talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, including with information I've just received literally in the last 20 minutes or so here as well. All right. Sheriff Alfred Montgomery, man, he looks like the guy who made up his resume and he's now being caught unable to do the job that he said he was going to do. You ever been around one of those in any job that you've had before?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. I mean, basically this guy is, he's in way over his head, but the problem is he keeps making everything worse for himself by simply either not telling the truth or not following through on the stuff that he says he was going to do. And you're talking about what should be a very, very narrowly defined, here are a few of the basic details we need you to do so that police can focus on other things. And now he is becoming a concern for public safety.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it doesn't even sound that hard, what his job is. And yet for some reason, he just outright refuses to do it. I mean, it's not, it doesn't even seem at this point, at least, coordinating transport, that he can't. I mean, that's a phone call, right?
Okay, so
he's just not doing it.
I'm going to risk sounding incredibly condescending here in a second. And I truly don't mean it this way.
Right. Okay.
Because there is no way somebody like me who's never been through any training whatsoever could walk into even being an entry-level police officer.
Sure. Yeah.
No way.
Right.
But it seems to me when you look at the duties of the St. Louis City Sheriff,
mm-hmm.
that someone who is simply a good administrator could do that job.
Right.
They don't have to have law enforcement experience. They could do that job considering how narrow the duties actually are.
Right. Because let's say you get a request. Okay. We have a prisoner and they're having some sort of medical issue.
Yeah.
They need to be transported from jail or prison or wherever to a medical facility.
Right.
And we want to make sure that's done safely and that the prisoner remains in custody. They would put in a call to the sheriff's office.
Right.
And the chief guy, the head of the office would say, hey, guys who are experienced in doing that, go do that.
Go do that. Yeah.
That's what I suspect.
Okay,
it looks
so
like.
this has become a big issue, which is why I'm saying at a time when St. Louis is trying to deal with $1.6 billion in damage from a tornado, a natural disaster, with all the other self-inflicted wounds the city government has to deal with. Now they've got this headache. So KMOV, David Amalotti did a story on this last night, and he did a good job. I mean, basically, Alfred Montgomery's response to media questions has made it worse. But here's part of that story that David Amalotti did on KMOV last night.
Right now, I have lost my confidence in the sheriff.
Mayor Kara Spencer says Sheriff Alfred Montgomery and his office committed a tremendous failure by refusing one of their jobs, the medical transport of multiple city jail inmates.
It is a failure of extreme magnitude, the ramifications of which I can't speak to right now, but what I can say is that it is absolutely imperative that we get the folks who need medical assistance to the hospital when they need it, without question.
Okay, now keep in mind that at one point the sheriff said, we will not put into writing, we are not going to be transporting inmates to medical facilities. We're not going to do that. He was called out on that because he said, well, we just don't have the money. But then he goes and it turns out he was buying a $52,000 SUV. He was buying golf carts, and he gave his administration raises across the board. None of this through the normal budgeting process, which once again, an experienced administrator will know you can't do this stuff. And so here's the next part of that story, because the Board of Aldermen called him out, and then he said, oh yeah, no, I'm going to go ahead and do that. But check this out.
We're going to transport him. Have you withdrawn this letter in its totality? I think I made it very clear that letter is withdrawn. It's null, it's void. It does not exist anymore. It's done.
But the next day, First Alert 4 confirmed the sheriff went back on his word. In a statement from the Department of Public Safety, the sheriff's office refused 5 medical transport requests, 1 on June 3rd, 2 on June 5th, 1 on June 6th, and 1 on June 7th. In all 5 instances, transports were handled by the Division of Corrections.
He promised he would do it, and to find out in retrospect that to have it confirmed by the Director of Public Safety just this afternoon that that duty was not fulfilled is truly horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem is that, remember, when you hear, like, you watch Cops or you watch one of those shows and you hear suspect in custody.
Yeah.
That's a legal term. I know I've gone over this many times before, but that's a foundation of this discussion. When it says in custody, that means we think they did something really bad. They may very well get convicted and lose their rights. But for the time being, you, government, you are responsible for that person's well-being to the most reasonable level possible. And by law, that means if they're having chest pains, you got to take them to the doctor.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the city jail has had a few legal troubles in regards to inmates dying.
Yeah, because every once in a while an inmate turns up room temperature.
Yeah, seriously. This is not, I'm pretty sure the last one was just last year.
It was not that long ago.
Yeah, it was not that long. We reported on it here.
Yeah, and so here's what you've got now is you've got a liability, massive liability problem. And so at one point, Montgomery said, well, I'm not legally required by law to do that. That's literally your description. And so the Alder critters are going to be debating and maybe voting on an ordinance on Friday to take what is expected, which is already in writing.
It's already in writing. It's just not a law specific.
Right. And put it into an ordinance. So basically to say, okay, so every other sheriff has known the expectations and did it, but for some reason you don't know what you're supposed to do, or you say that you're not supposed, you don't know. So here we go. We'll put it into the rules. Basically, this is the equivalent of the performance improvement plan. By the way, if your corporate manager hands you that,
the improvement
you're
plan,
halfway out the door.
Yeah, seriously.
Just start dusting up your LinkedIn.
Yeah, basically, like these are the reasons why we're going to let you go in a month.
Except the alderman can't do that,
because he's an elected official, right? So, but there should be consequences.
Well, it's interesting because the mayor was asked, and David Amalotti did a good job on that report. The mayor was asked, should he be removed from office? And she's like, well, I can't comment on that.
Right.
There was no yes, there was no. So there are discussions going on about that.
And there is a process to remove elected officials from office for not doing their job.
Correct.
We saw it happen.
Oh yeah. Yep. So bad timing for a bad headache. Even though elements of this are just humorous. This is getting beyond the point of being funny.
St. Louis doesn't need this.
No, does not need it. All right. You also don't need some of these violent protests potentially to spread here. Is that something we're at risk of? Oh, the protests are coming. It looks like this weekend. I'll tell you about it just ahead.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
He doesn't know what to do. He's a mess.
On News Talk STL. The Vic Porcelli Show.
Vic for Vets. Today we honor 2 Vietnam-era veterans, Jesse Ray Hughes and Sergeant E5 Harry Allen, submitted by our friend Grant Gakey.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Downright gorgeous today, but warmer flow kicks in tomorrow. We could be looking at the hottest day of the year so far on Wednesday. But first, tons of sunshine today, low humidity. There will be some Canadian wildfire smoke in our sky from time to time. 83 this afternoon. Count on clear skies tonight as we drop to a low of 64, and then tomorrow mostly sunny and hotter. I'm forecasting a high of 90. Still trending rain-free all the way through Thursday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here. Exciting things are happening at the Hideout in High Ridge. Famous for the Sunset Patio, 4 big screen TVs, live music and events, and of course, the wings. The Hideout now has a brand new menu featuring handcrafted burgers and new items like their signature sunset dip and Dave's Chili. And now a second location, the Hideout at Sugar Creek Golf Course in High Ridge, featuring great event space. You can stop by for lunch or dinner. The new 2025 Hideout and the new Hideout at Sugar Creek Golf Course. We'll see you there.
Are the days of a personal doctor gone? Not at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. I'm Dr. Randy Tobler to share how our design is putting the care back into healthcare. Plain and simple, our members, not insurance companies, get our exclusive focus. That means same or next day appointments, responsive answers to your concerns, and a no-spin, big tool chest approach. It's about time you get serious time devoted to your medical needs. To learn about healthcare the way it ought to be, schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Attention reptile lovers, ready to discover your next scaly friend? Welcome to the Show Me Reptile Shop, your ultimate destination for fascinating reptiles and exotic pets, with 3 convenient locations in Troy, St. Peters, and Springfield. We have an amazing selection of snakes, lizards, turtles, and more. Whether you're a seasoned herpetologist or a curious beginner, we've got the perfect pet waiting for you. Show Me Reptile Shop. Visit us in Troy, St. Peters, or Springfield, and online at showmereptileshow.com.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
Thanks for being my voice in all this.
This is News Talk STL.
There are people out there that feel the way that I feel and say what I say.
Welcome home.
Hi, this is Aaron Dorr. Check out my show, Shall Not Be Infringed, Sunday nights at 9. But now it's more of Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, left-wing extremists think that they are the ants and the Trump administration are the grasshoppers.
I think they do think that.
Yeah.
I think they do think that, but they're going to find out there's
who gets the reference.
I absolutely
okay.
get it.
I understood that reference.
You understand the reference.
I understand the
You know which movie I'm referring to.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, by the way, was if used the right way, that's a great social commentary.
Solid analogy there. But it looks like they're going to be more like the exterminators. Don't forget to sign up for the NewsTalk STL newsletter. Newsletter is where you're going to get all our best stories here. You get the Todd Showalter cartoon exclusive to the NewsTalk STL newsletter. All you have to do is go to newstalkstl.com to sign up. And look, we're not gonna flood your inbox. We're not gonna sell your data. Nope. So you're not gonna get affiliate marketing from somebody. You know what I'm saying? It's just the newsletter once a week. Good stuff.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that. The Todd Showalter newsletter is probably one of the highlights of whenever I have to check my inbox and I see something new from Todd Showalter, you know it's going to be good.
Yeah, now this is the NewsTalk STL newsletter.
And Todd Showalter has his
own separate one.
So you can definitely sign up.
So get both of them.
Right.
Yes, get both.
Okay, so they say this is in response to the ICE raids and the National Guard being deployed. This was planned all along.
It started before the before the guard showed up.
Right. It started before the guard was a reaction to the violence. And then you've got the mayor, you've got the governor running around saying, look what you instigated. Now, I am telling you at this point, I'm confident in saying I completely believe that these riots, this violence was on somebody's calendar weeks ago.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, there was probably a Teams meeting at some point. Of like, okay, so 12 o'clock lunch, 1 o'clock, let's start throwing stuff at cops.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's the thing. You could almost start forecasting these like the weather. You'd have the national idiot brigade report for when the riot's going to show up because it seems to be seasonal. They're like locusts. Maybe.
Okay, so one of the instigators is the Service Employees International Union.
Oh yes,
I mean, and there are hundreds of members of this union in the St. Louis area. If you are a member of this, because there are people who are in this union because they have to, because Missouri's not a right to work state. Understand that your dues are going to left-wing extremist, basically communist activism is what your union is using your money for.
Now, I have no proof of this, but when they show the pallets of bricks, when they show the brand new gas masks or face shields that show up on street corners for some reason in the areas that are starting to, I have a guess of where they're coming from.
You're right.
I mean, look, like I said, I have no proof.
Right.
This is purely conjecture. This is just Gabe Pfeiffer just reading the room, and it looks like it's financed.
So, it's definitely financed without a doubt. So here's the thing is that these so-called anti-ICE protests are now planned around the country. Now, these are by the union itself. I mean, I found this on Newsweek, and they've actually published a map. St. Louis is not on the map, but it looks like there are protests, some kind of activities coming to St. Louis County on Saturday. But these other protests, the closest to us, it looks like, is going to be Chicago. And I've already read news articles where people are saying, listen, if you're in Chicago, work remotely or take the day off, because this is being timed. They're being planned for late in the day to try to shut down as much of the city so you can get to work, but you won't be able to get home, for hours and hours and hours. And traffic in Chicago is tough enough as it is.
Yeah, not trying to get too out of pocket here. However, it's sometimes totally an option just to keep driving. So
I'm just saying. Yeah. Now, another thing of this is originally the unions were against illegal immigration, if I remember.
Because that was competition.
It was, exactly.
Well, they were against basically all immigration, and they were also they were in favor of Jim Crow laws.
Yes, actually, a lot of the anti-black laws came out of the unions because they were trying to protect the wages.
This was well documented in a book that came out a couple years ago.
Yeah. It's, I'm pretty sure I recognize somebody of Rachel Ferguson, I think,
wrote that book.
Yeah, exactly. Liberation in the Marketplace.
Black Liberation through the Marketplace. Yeah,
that's
which
right.
you can find at the NewsTalkSTL bookstore.
Yeah. So now the unions are fighting for the illegal immigrants, and the only thing I can think of as a good reason, a solid reason why they would do so, because illegal immigration used to be a bad thing for their members, is that they're starting to sign these guys up.
Right. Oh yeah.
So they're members now. This is they've found a new source, because look, union membership has been trending down for decades at this point, and they're struggling for survival, like a lot of these lefty sort of organizations.
Right.
So it makes sense that they found a new source of people, a new source of dues, and they managed to figure out how to do that. So the immigrants are going to replace the American workers in the unions too.
Yeah. So there is now a demonstration planned. It's called the No Kings Mass Protest, June 14th, which would be Saturday. And looks like this is, and one of our friends in the conservative movement sent this to me a little bit ago and sent me the screenshots literally from their website and their social media. And so it looks like midday on the 14th on Manchester and Weedman. So we're looking at Baldwin. We're looking at DePere. Manchester, as you know, is a pain in the butt to drive through anyway.
Yeah.
And so DePere and Baldwin, a lot of commercial activities in that area. So it looks like there's going to be some kind of demonstration. Now, hopefully if they, stay on their sidewalks and they just do their chants and their signs, that's your right, and don't interfere with them. That's their right.
Yeah, exactly. Don't touch them.
Now, what we have seen with these activist agitator types. We've seen it on Del Mar, where they shut down the road because of their anti-Semitic protest, their anti-Jewish protest, their pro-Hamas protest. And then you saw them take that out to the Chesterfield area and the Manchester area. So main roads and highways, a lot of these are the same people, the keffiyeh wearing, just give me something to protest. Give me a reason to throw a brick. They have no idea. It's like Bill Maher said a couple weeks ago. If you had never heard of your cause that you're passionate about 6 months ago, maybe it's not about the cause.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just about you wanting to throw bricks. Maybe it's just about you wanting to cause chaos. And what you have right now are people on the extreme left who think we outnumber them. And that's why I'm guessing you're seeing the reaction from the Trump administration in LA, because the Trump administration may say, yeah, you may outnumber us, but we've got the stronger cars and the stronger men.
Yeah, here's a song you can actually play if you're stuck in traffic.
There you go.
Yes. I was actually thinking about that song. Okay, I'm not. Look, I won't say I'm not going to step on the gas, but I won't step on the brake.
Yeah, I mean, and
I'll say that.
And listen, I mean, obviously we're not telling you to go mow people over.
No.
That's but if you're threatened,
and look, people surrounding your vehicle in the road is a threat.
It's a threat. Yeah. So here's what you're looking at here. I am not trying to agitate and amp up what's going to happen.
Right.
I mean, let's be guys in the room. Let's be careful. Let's be careful.
Absolutely clear. Yeah.
I don't want this to go out of hand, because I don't want to be responsible if something happens. If they stay peaceful and in the proper areas, then hey, have at your protest. You look like an effing moron, because you are an effing moron, but don't violate other people's rights.
Yeah. And I mean, I have fun with this kind of stuff, but I also want to reiterate, I would absolutely unironically love to have a conversation with some of these people and get the actual, what do you believe? What do you think I'm wrong about? Let's have a conversation about this. However, during the 2020 Black Lives Matter riots, my city was put under martial law because we had people pulling people out of their cars, beating them up, stealing their cars, jumping on the cars, busting out the windshields. People were injured. So for me personally, when I see a crowd of people and I see these videos coming out and they're surrounding the car, my internal instinct is, oh my gosh, this is going to happen to me. I need to get out of the situation.
That's the threat.
Once you put somebody in a fight or flight risk, that's when things get really messy. So as long as they are staying out of the way, you can have all the signs you want. You can call me whatever names you want.
Yeah.
I don't mind that, but we have to be realistic, is that these are not people that are just sitting there saying, the ICE agents, we are going to form a peaceful barricade and do the Kent State thing of putting flowers in the rifles. They're throwing bricks and rocks and surrounding people and intimidating them. And that is why things escalate. So we need to be smart about this. However, my life matters more to me than anybody else's life around me. That's just how it is.
And we saw violence in St. Louis. We saw it in Columbia, Missouri. We saw it in Austin, Texas. We saw it in Portland. We saw it in Seattle. We saw people get killed. We saw that happen. So my guess is that it's not going to stay peaceful. And by the way, spilling into the road, blocking traffic is not peaceful. That is not peaceful protest. You're violating somebody else's rights here, and most people are simply going to stop and go, there's nothing I can do. Well, there is, but you're just not going to do it.
Right. Yeah. And that's what they rely on.
Yeah.
That's part of the deal, is that they play on the good nature of their opponents.
These are not the tactics, and this is not the activity of somebody who wants to win you over.
No,
you're an enemy. This is them throwing down. They know you're not going to get stuck on Manchester and go, well, I should really consider their perspective. They know you're not going to do that. Yeah. I've convinced me now that I've been forced to sit here while I'm trying to get to wherever I'm going. So these are not people who want to win you over. These are people who want to inflict something on you.
Right.
And if you're part of this demonstration, hopefully you stay peaceful. I don't have any respect for you as a human being. You're a garbage human.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Listen, there are things I disagree with Donald Trump about too. And I say so on the radio to a conservative audience. That's how you do it. There's also things that he's doing right. And I say that too. I think he's getting more right than he's getting wrong. So the bottom line is, to what Jerome was just saying, is we're able on our side to actually have the discussions We're going to talk to Senator Eric Schmitt here in about 20 minutes. So we can do that here. If you choose not to do that, you want to escalate it. Well, the administration has made it very clear the approach that they're going to take to dealing with that. Mike Kehoe hasn't been tested yet, but I would not put him in a position to make him make a decision on that.
News, analysis,
I'm glad you're talking about this.
opinion.
I'm glad you're fired up about it too, because I know I am.
News Talk STL.
Life's too busy for home maintenance hassles. That's where Nicole Whited Home Concierge Services comes in. From coordinating contractors and managing yearly maintenance appointments for your home and vehicles, to handling your mail, packages, and personal errands and shopping while you're home or away. Nicole takes care of the details so you don't have to. Nicole Whited Home Concierge Services. Call 314-766-1996. 314-766-1996. Effortless living starts here.
Never paint again. This is Darren, owner of Rhino Shield. Want to eliminate painting your home, business, or church? Call the experts at Rhino Shield. Rhino Shield is a revolutionary ceramic wall coating to regular paint and vinyl. Perfect for aluminum, steel, unpainted brick, block, stucco, EIFS, drive-it, cement board, and wood sidings. Rhino Shield eliminates wasting time and money painting year after year. Our ceramic coating deflects 90% of the sun's UV rays and 100% of the moisture. Our clients want affordable protection with the elimination of maintenance. Rhino Shield protects your biggest investment while maintaining your architectural features and gives you the curb appeal you deserve. Make your home great again by working with the Rhino Shield experts. A+ rated with the BBB. Call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
All right, Gabe, I just got an email.
Yes, sir.
It says regarding the water cannons.
Yeah.
It just says, the email says, hey, Mike, the use of water cannons would accomplish two things. It would disperse the crowd and give them a bath.
Oh yes. Also, that makes it a three-fer because it puts out the fires.
That's right.
It gets rid of them and gives them a bath.
I don't know if the person who said that was to be mentioned on the air. That was really funny. Thank you
solid.
for that email. All right. It's about a month later, but federal disaster relief is headed to St. Louis. And a top federal official says they are going to hit back against rioters. It is 6:49. Let's do a news dump.
The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks, the Morning News Dump.
$71 million. That is the federal disaster relief money headed to St. Louis. The Trump administration notified Governor Kehoe of that decision on Monday. Of that, just over $60 million will be used to support individuals who are rebuilding. And also it will be used to support local government agencies affected by that May tornado. That is in addition to state funding that is being considered in the special session this week. We don't have a final number on what that's going to be. The tornado caused at least $1.6 billion in damage. I think that number is probably going to go up. And most importantly, it took 5 lives in St. Louis.
Man.
All right. More members of the U.S. military are heading to Los Angeles in the wake of the increased violence by the left.
The Pentagon has deployed about 700 Marines to L.A. to help National Guard members respond to protests over immigration raids. The Marines are being deployed from their base in the Southern California desert to protect federal property and personnel. Meanwhile, President Trump authorized the deployment of another 2,000 National Guard members, even as California filed a lawsuit against the administration for trampling on the state's authority. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Now, my question, though, is I was under the interpretation that U.S. forces could not be deployed domestically unless it was the National Guard.
Okay, so that we're going to ask that question at 8:35. We have legal analyst Keith Gross going to be with us. It depends on what they are assigned to do
What their
on
mission
that.
is.
So, because that's a fair question. And I'll be really honest, every conservative small government, especially those of us who are libertarian, should absolutely have our spidey senses up when we're talking about active duty military being deployed and sent out. We absolutely should be asking that question. Okay. We should be questioning the government on that. So that is 100% the right question to be asked on that.
So stick around and we'll give you that answer.
Yes, 100%. All right. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass still blaming the federal government for everything that's happening in Los Angeles right now.
We were told that raids would be to look for violent criminals, people who had warrants, but I don't know how you go from a drug dealer to a Home Depot, to people's workplaces where they're just trying to make a living.
Okay, so that's part of her blaming the Trump administration, along with Governor Gavin Newsom blaming the Trump administration, saying you caused all this violence by sending in the National Guard, even though the Guard was sent in response to the violence.
Yeah. Now, the best argument she could make is that one is like, wait a minute, we were talking about getting rid of the violent criminals, and you know, I suppose you can appeal to sort of the bleeding hearts of certain aspects
because
of
there's a little bit of truth in what she said.
There's a little bit of truth in there. Now, of course, Homan said we're going to start with the violent criminals, and she mentioned also, you know, people with warrants. Well, here's the thing: a deportation order is a warrant.
That's the equivalent.
It's the equivalent of a warrant for an illegal immigrant. So, they're doing their job. And who says nobody's dealing drugs at the Home Depot?
Right. Well, the bottom line is you're here illegally.
Yeah.
If they get it confirmed, you're subject to deportation and you're violating our laws.
Yep.
Now, in response to the violence, of course, the Trump administration has just heard basically doubling and tripling down. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was on Fox News Channel's Hannity last night discussing that.
We're going to use the authority that he has as president of the United States to conduct these operations. And the more that people conduct violence against law enforcement officers, boy, we're going to hit them back, and we're going to hit them back harder than we ever have before.
Governor Gavin Newsom and the state of California are actually suing the Trump administration, trying to stop them from deploying National Guard to basically stop them from trying to quell the violence.
Yeah, it's crazy. The Democrat position, basically in favor of violence of the sort that they like, is kind of a wild thing. And to see people like John Fetterman be like the one voice of reason on that side to say, hey guys, this is a bad look. It's amazing. It's like,
and if anybody knows anything about bad looks, it's the guy in Walmart shorts and sweatshirts in the U.S. Senate.
He knows
he knows what a bad look is all about.
Yeah.
But I mean, when he says something that is just common sense, the left is like, how dare you? You're talking like them. Yeah. Common sense.
Yeah. Common sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of a thing.
No kidding. All right. Speaking of common sense, Riley Gaines responding to Simone Biles. Good God. I mean, Simone Biles just picked a fight she didn't need to pick.
She did not need to do this. Her stock in the public perception has gone down a lot, just in the last couple of weeks here because of this.
Just stupid. So Simone Biles went on a rant on social media against Riley Gaines. So to step back a little bit, you probably saw the video of this high school boy who thinks he's a girl or pretends he's a girl, and they won the state softball championship, and he was just blowing away because he's the pitcher.
Yeah.
And obviously he's got tremendous biological advantages. And Riley Gaines criticized it, and Simone Biles went after Riley Gaines. And among the things that she said in her insults is basically telling Riley Gaines she looks like a man.
Yeah, I mean, she did that. She said, what was it? Pick on somebody your own size, which ironically would be more likely to be a man.
Yeah, and Riley Gaines, among other things, hit back essentially saying, if men were allowed in your sport, you wouldn't have all those gold medals. But yeah, we really wouldn't. So here's Riley Gaines on the Will Cain show on Fox last night.
Venom is all the other side really has, especially, I mean, a lot of the cultural chaos, but especially the issue of men and women's sports. But even outside of the personal attacks, like I'm secure enough to, those things don't bother me. Simone Biles saying I'm built like a man.
I mean, you remember not that long ago, we were like, oh, thank goodness WashU brought in somebody non-controversial, somebody everybody can cheer, because Simone Biles was their commencement speaker.
I remember that.
Did this happen just with like literally half a day on WashU's campus? Did the stupid wear off on Simone Biles in half a day on WashU's campus?
I guess it's in the air.
Oh my God.
It's crazy. And it's funny because in one of her responses, Riley Gaines was like, I'm 5'5" and 136.
Yeah.
Like, she's not a big person.
No.
It's like, you're not going to look. We've seen the calendar she was in,
the swimsuit calendar.
You're not going to mistake her for a dude in that dress.
We did the research.
We did.
We're just saying we did the research for journalistic reasons, as I want to point out.
Yes, exactly.
All right. The Cardinals had the lead, then they blew it in extra innings. Ryan Helsley has already blown 5 saves this year. That's not good. He was the best closer in the game last year. St. Louis loses the first game of the series to the Blue Jays in 10 innings last night. Final score at Busch Stadium was 5-4. Ivan Herrera had a 3-run home run in the 8th inning. That put the Redbirds ahead for the moment, but the Jays scored runs in both the 9th inning to tie it up, and then in the 10th inning, which was the go-ahead run that won the game. Tonight's game is at 6:45. Miles Michaelis going to be on the mound. You can see that game on FanDuel. You just hate that. You had the lead, and then you lose it. Especially in Helsley's. I mean, he's a good pitcher. He's just having a crappy year. It's like, hold the lead. 5 blown saves already. That is rough. So hopefully he turns that back around and gets back into the form of the pitcher we know that he should be.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Experience the true flavors of Mexico at Dos Primos, O'Fallon's premier Mexican restaurant. From sizzling fajitas to homemade caldo de pollo, every dish is crafted with the freshest ingredients and traditional recipes, all made fresh daily in our kitchen. Cool down with our famous margaritas or your favorite cerveza, while our friendly staff makes you feel like family. Dine in or carry out. Visit DosPrimosMexicanRestaurant.com or find us on North Main in O'Fallon.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
This is Katie McKinney, founder and head of school for Lafayette Academy in Lake St. Louis. Recently, we had a new second grader come to Lafayette Academy who claimed he was stupid and hated reading. Within months of using our world-class literacy program, he was reading Harry Potter and loving it. He had just not been given the right tools. We invite you to our open house Wednesday, June 25th from 5 till 7 and hear from our current families and learn more about our dedicated teachers and world-class curriculum. To learn more, go to LafayetteAcademy.org. That's LafayetteAcademy.org.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. In the streets of L.A., President Trump is sending 2,000 more National Guard troops and 700 Marines to Los Angeles, and he's blasting Governor Gavin Newsom's handling of the unrest.
I like him. I always got along with him. Never had a problem with him.
but he's grossly incompetent.
With scenes of civil unrest in Los Angeles and elsewhere dominating TV newscasts this week, a new movie in theaters tonight and tomorrow night only offers a timely reminder of how America's founding fathers realized freedom is a fragile concept. In his film, The American Miracle, director Tim Mahoney traces how the hand of God has been present in our nation from the days of George Washington right up to the administration of President Donald Trump. And despite wars, assassination attempts, and even occasional riots in our streets, Mahoney says America continues to flourish.
I think that's what civics is about. We have to live in a civil society, and we've gotten away from that. And what I'm grateful for is that I think a number of scholars and famous people have seen that this film does a really, really good job of telling an important story where our freedoms come from. They don't come from government. They're actually given by God, and government just recognizes that.
The American Miracle, featuring performances by actors Kevin Sorbo and Richard Dreyfuss, among others, is based on a history book authored by talk show host Michael Medved. Information on theaters and tickets for the final two nights can be found at AmericanMiracleMovie.com. In Ukraine, 3 dead, 13 wounded, a toll taken by the latest Russian missile and drone attack on Ukraine. A high school shooting in Austria has left 8 people dead. Meanwhile, in France, a 15-year-old student stabbed a school worker to death during a bag check. On Wall Street, the Dow futures up 1 point. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Now there's a new way to take charge of your blood sugar. Introducing new Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula from the makers of the nation's best-selling garlic supplement. New Garlic helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels with clinically supported levels of garlic, plus a custom blend of vitamins and minerals, and it's odor-free. Take charge of your blood sugar with new Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed.
If you're living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
My back got injured very bad. I was off work for about a year. I heard about Relief Factor from my wife. I took it every day, 3 times a day for 3 weeks. I looked at her and I said, the pain is gone. And she said, I'm glad it helped. I said, no, you don't understand. It's gone.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to relieffactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Downright gorgeous today, but warmer flow kicks in tomorrow. We could be looking at the hottest day of the year so far on Wednesday. But first, tons of sunshine today, low humidity. There will be some Canadian wildfire smoke in our sky from time to time. 83 this afternoon. Count on clear skies tonight as we drop to a low of 64, and then tomorrow mostly sunny and hotter. I'm forecasting a high of 90. Still trending rain-free all the way through Thursday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Are you sitting on hidden treasure? Manchester Coin & Jewelry wants to turn your valuables into cash. We're Missouri's premier gold buyers and jewelry specialists with years of expertise. We offer top dollar for your coins, antiques, precious metals, and collectibles. From gold and silver to clocks and jewelry, we buy it all. Don't let your treasures collect dust. Let Manchester Coin & Jewelry give you the best value. Visit online at buyingvaluables.net or come see him today at 141 in Manchester and tell him NewsTalk STL sent you.
Tim Jones here. Being a recovering lawyer, don't call me for your legal needs, but you should call Todd Sivia and the fine folks at Sivia Law. At Sivia Law, they'll help you through all of life's transitions, providing you with legal services in the areas of estate planning, elder law, special needs, real estate, personal injury, and much more. Locations across Western Illinois and Eastern Missouri, including right here in Creve Coeur and Wentzville. Call Sivia Law today for any and all of your legal needs. 833-995-WILL. CiviaLaw.com, CiviaLaw.com.
Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I triple saw stereo.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice. Drain the swamp and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This
All right, 7:05 right now. I got to tell you, I understand doing whatever you have to do to get on the baseball diamond. I mean, I am upfront about this. This job, I'm just going to say this in front of God and everybody else.
Yeah.
This job is just a way to fund my old man baseball habit.
I believe that.
So I can still keep playing
Absolutely.
baseball. Yeah.
You're the guy who keeps his equipment in his car just in case a random baseball game happens.
I've got all my gear in the car right now.
If a baseball game breaks out, you're on top
I'm
of
ready.
it.
I'm ready. Yeah. I mean, I've got 3 games this week alone. Honestly. So that's actually true. I mean, some people go to extremes to get on the field, like, getting elected to the U.S. Senate. I to get on the baseball field.
Oh yeah, and sorry.
Look at the show sheet.
I'm sorry. I just blanked out. Vic for Vets month. Yeah, that's what we're talking about right now. We've got we're going to be honoring the veterans in your life and the lives of everybody in the studio here during the Medal of Honor June. If you have somebody, a loved one, living or dead, who served in the military and you want them honored on the radio during the Vic Porcelli show, give us a ring, send us an email discussing who they are, their name, rank, what branch they were in, the dates of service, and so any stories around them, any awards that they won, all of that, all so that we can properly honor their service. So that's Vic for Vets month. So get on that with News Talk STL.
All right, 7:07 right now. We're now joined by U.S. Senator Eric Schmitt. Big baseball game. I know you're thinking, wait a minute, there's about 100 different things we could talk to the senator about, but we've got the congressional baseball game coming up, and I want to spend a lot, because there really is more to it than just what happens on the field. But I would be absolutely remiss, Senator, if I didn't at least get a quick overview response. These riots could be spreading, obviously, in LA right now. What's your assessment of how the administration has responded to them?
Well, I think they've done it. President Trump's done exactly what he needs to do, which is provide leadership when you have people like Gavin Newsom and particularly the mayor of Los Angeles sort of encouraging people to, commit violence against ICE agents. And I think that really what this is, honestly, if you want to get to the heart of the matter, the globalist left thought they could get away with bringing in 15 million people here illegally. That's what the last administration was. President Trump was very clear. One of his top 2 issues on the campaign trail was, we're going to secure the border and we're going to meet mass migration with mass deportations. And that's what he's doing. And they don't like it. They can't believe he won. They can't believe he's fulfilling this campaign promise. And people who are here illegally, they got to go, and it's driving them nuts. And so this is kind of a common theme. You see just sort of resorting to this violence, but I think the difference is this isn't 2020 anymore. The American people have had enough of this nonsense, and President Trump is going to stand up, and we're going to make sure we have law and order in this country.
All right, we're visiting with U.S. Senator Eric Schmitt, and of course, last time we were visiting with you, it was you and Glenn Jacobs at that event, which I really appreciate you being at. It was so much fun, and now you're headed to the baseball field. A lot of people may not realize this, and I didn't know this. Now, it hasn't happened every single year. There were some years where the game wasn't played, but the congressional baseball game actually goes back to 1909, which I did not know. Yeah. It had gone back that far. Now, Republicans are on a 4-year winning streak. I'm talking about the baseball game, not the elections, but 4-year winning streak here. And so that's on the line tomorrow, and you're on the team. You're on Team Red.
That's right. And it's a lot of fun. And so, yeah, it's been played for a very, very long time. We raised about $2.5 million for charity, which is great. There's 30,000 people there at the game. It's wild. And so it's in the weather, hopefully, knock on wood, should be good, because you get a lot of people who just sort of walk up to the game. But yeah, it's Republicans versus Democrats. Last year we won 31-11. So I think it was the first time 30 runs have been scored in like 70 years or something. So
wow,
we've got a pretty good team. And my first year, I batted cleanup, and it was fun having a bases loaded triple and all of that good stuff. And then last year moved me into the 2 spot, and I think that's where I'll be playing tomorrow. It's like the Larry Walker thing, right? You get an extra at bat, moving from the 4 hole to the 2 hole. But so I play in left field, and it's a blast. I was joking with one of the outfielders last year when we were out there. All these people there, and you're playing on a major league field. I said, this is what I really wanted to do with my life. This is what I wanted. I wanted to be in the outfield for the St. Louis Cardinals. That was my dream.
Well,
and
that's
somehow
all I
got
wanted
the
to do
US
was
Senate.
that's all I wanted to do was play baseball.
No, that was, I mean, legit. That's what I wanted to do with my life. But I'm pretty lucky and grateful for the job that I have now in the Senate. But yeah, once a year you get out on the diamond, and we want to win. I mean, it's for charity, but I'm a pretty competitive guy, and we want to win. We want to beat the Democrats and beat them badly.
Okay, so you've got the charitable aspect. Millions of dollars brought in. This will be on. I mean, it's been C-SPAN and some of the others. I mean, you can watch the game if you want. 30,000 people at this is the Nationals stadium that you're going to be at. Is there anything to this outside of the game? I mean, obviously, the partisanship is at a fever pitch, and that's just the new norm. Does this do anything in the Capitol to bring on any sort of goodwill, even when you're fighting it out from 9 to 5 over these really crucial issues?
Well, yeah, I think I'll give you two examples. One is, so I'm the only senator that starts, and we have a starting 9, and that's what we play. It's not one of these things where everybody rotates in. Our manager, Roger Williams, who played Major League Ball, he's a congressman in Texas. I mean, he wants to win, so he's putting his best team out on the field. And so there's a camaraderie that happens in those 5:45 a.m. practices. That's 5:45 East Coast time. So that's 4:45 Missouri time. And we had a practice this morning. So you get out there literally at the crack of dawn, and you spend some time with House members. So Steve Scalise is out there, a bunch of people that I wouldn't normally interact with. I think people think we're all around one another all the time. The Senate is kind of doing its thing, and the House is sort of doing its thing. And so it's been great for me to get to know a lot of those guys on the House side. And then on the Senate side, again, I'm the only senator that plays on the Republican side. Alex Padilla from California plays. He's the only senator that plays on their side. Because you got to remember, I'm 49. The average age of a U.S. senator is 68 years old, right? So it skews a little bit older. But Padilla, we give each other a little trouble. He beamed me last year. I got hit by a pitch by Padilla, and I told him, "Don't worry about it. You don't throw hard enough for it to hurt." So it's fine. So there's some of that good-natured ribbing, and I do think if there are things you can find in common that you like, we're all human beings. Baseball happens to be something that, I don't particularly care when I'm in a Cardinals game and they're in the playoffs, and Lars Nootbaar hits a home run. I'm not asking for if somebody's a Republican or Democrat next to me. I'm giving them a big hug and maybe buying them a beer, right? So that's just kind of the nature of sports. And so I think it's one of those kinds of events that does bring people together. And then afterwards, the next day, we'll be back at it, fighting like hell for things we believe in. So,
which uniform are you going to be wearing?
So I wear we have uniforms. I'll wear my Cardinals hat. The Democrats wear whatever uniforms they want. We actually have a uniform that we wear as Republicans. We're a little more orderly on our side, right? We actually believe in things. And so we'll have a uniform. I'll be wearing a red Cardinals hat, though. That's typically where I went. Although I'll switch out hats. Like I've worn a Mizzou hat, a Truman State hat, a DeSmet hat, where I went to high school. I'll wear those, rotate in from inning to inning. But we'll have a uniform on. And that, by the way, I wear number 24. That's not the number I had growing up, but Missouri's the 24th state. So just want to represent the show me state out there.
I never made that connection because on 2 of my teams, I'm actually number 24 as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I never.
Well, it's Whitey's number 2.
Yeah.
So that's a good number to have.
Yeah, it is. We're visiting with U.S. Senator / left fielder for the Republican Party, Eric Schmitt here. Okay, so I did want to talk a little bit. I saw some video of your BP the other day, your batting practice. I don't want to be too forward here, Eric. Outside pitch, don't pull it. You gotta go other way.
I know that we gotta be patient. Actually, the hardest part of the game is waiting for a strike. So, like last year, for example, I was 2 for 4 with a couple of doubles. It should have been a triple, but the person in front of me wasn't moving too fast. And they have all these advanced metrics. Like I can tell you what my my OPS plus is. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but not that I care about those things, right? Not that I'm super competitive.
Clearly not. Yeah.
Clearly not. Yeah. But yeah, you got to be patient. And so, like, I had a couple walks, and I was hit by a pitch in the first game. I played a couple walks. So the hardest part is you go up there, you've been practicing, your team is there, my family's going to be there. You want to perform, right? But you've got to be patient and kind of stay back because they're not throwing 93 like Sonny Gray. So,
right. And I'm just saying, being a baseball guy myself, few things are as pretty as an opposite field hit to me.
So can I share something with you?
Yeah.
I agree with you. So when I was in law school, I actually coached a baseball team for a couple years in the summers with another buddy of mine who played college baseball as well. And I just love the game, so I thought this would be kind of fun. One of the players on one of those teams was David Freese.
No way.
Yeah. So what's interesting is that was David's sophomore year in high school, and what he did, even at that young age, more than most people I've seen, really, he drove the ball to right center really, really well. I think the mark, you're right, of a really good hitter is to be able to drive the ball in the gap the other way. Like that's when somebody's really on, they're a good hitter. And Freese, even at that age, was doing that. And so watching him in the 2011 postseason, with all those extra base hits, including home run dead to center or driving the ball to right there when he had that triple that tied the game up in Game 6. I mean, I could just see 16-year-old David Freese doing the same thing. So it's kind of cool.
Okay, so when you're back in town from Washington, D.C., you want to be a ringer on my team?
I don't know, brother. I feel like these early morning practices since March. I mean, I'm love the games coming up, and we're gonna have the game, but I'm kind of looking forward to not getting up that early for baseball practice. Maybe I'll take a little time off, but come out for a cameo or something.
There you go. Okay, come on out. We'll put you on the roster, and you can come get a few ABs with us. All right, Senator Eric Schmitt.
So where do you play? I'm curious.
Let's see. Like this week, I'm going to play one game at Ozzie Smith's in O'Fallon, then I'm going to play Thursday. I think I'm going to be in Fairview Heights at Longacre Park on the Illinois side. We play in Sauget. We play in Lake St. Louis. We play in St. Peter's at the Recplex, and we play at I'll play at SLU next week. So yeah, we wherever they'll rent us a field, that's where we play.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a lot of fun. But I'm telling you, if you want to come in, get a few swings, trust me, there's no way that guys in the old man leagues are going to throw any harder than what you're going to see tomorrow.
That's probably right. That's probably right.
All right, Senator Eric Schmitt, the congressional baseball game, and who is the C-SPAN going to air that? Where's that going to air?
Yeah, so it's on Fox Sports 1 and C-SPAN. So yeah, tune in tomorrow night about 7:00, and we'll be on.
All right,
well, 6:00. I guess it's 6:00 Central.
Yeah, 6:00 Central. All right, Senator Schmitt. The next time we'll ask you about a whole bunch of the headline stuff, but appreciate this. It'll be a lot of fun because it's raising a lot of money, and I think at this time right now, it's actually good to see political opponents having a little bit of fun.
Yep, we'll do it. I'll try to represent Missouri well out there.
All right, thanks, Eric. We'll talk to you soon. All right, 314-912-1019.
That's kind of awesome.
It really kind of is. I mean, that. Not that I'm never going to run for office again. Believe me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
No.
But that would actually be a motivating factor. It's like if I win, I could play in that. I've only played in Major League spring training stadiums. I've never played in an actual stadium.
Yeah.
And did you notice all the? Okay, did you notice all the? I was in the 4-hole, but now I'm 2. I should have had that triple, but that guy. I mean, there's a little bit of hey, I'm a baller. Going on there.
That's that
little bit of the humble brag going on
inside baseball.
Yeah,
discussions.
A little bit. All right. A lot of ground to cover here. Are you concerned about these protests here in the St. Louis area? Looks like at least one is going to happen. We'll see whether it turns violent, but I'll tell you about it around 7:22.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
We'll have the latest on the riots in LA and what's going to be done and how soon. That's coming up.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Springtime often means storms. Don't let a fallen tree ruin your day. Call Hanson's Tree. Look them up at hansonstree.com. Hanson's, your expert insured tree care specialist in the St. Louis region and well beyond. In addition to taking care of all the messes, they can take care of beautiful things as well. Organic mulch, tree trimming, grinding, and land clearing, green waste recycling. Let the expert arborist at Hanson's take care of all the tree care for your home or business. 24/7 at hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the All-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Connor Roofing, you can count on Connor. Connor Roofing is now a 2-time winner of the National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction for roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. Please visit ConnorRoofing.com for an estimate. And remember, you can count on Connor.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for O'Fallon Family Floors, O'FallonFamilyFloors.com. Brian and his team, they're just amazing people. They're so proud of their operation. Pride in every installation. You can see that in the Google reviews. Pride in the great quality, pride in the great pricing, pride in the great variety, and pride in the fact that you can go into the store right off of Highway K at O'Fallon, or the store will come to you. That's the promise of O'Fallon Family Floors, O'FallonFamilyFloors.com.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk. Live and local.
I need to know what's going on in my city.
News Talk STL.
Hey, this is Todd Showalter. Join me on Saturday at 5 as I try to put some fun back into this dysfunctional radio station. It's The Right Mind Show with me, Todd Showalter, at 5 on Saturday. And, speaking of dysfunctional, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, Art, you worried about the protest and the violence spreading to St. Louis? It looks like at least a protest is headed this way. We'll get to that in just a second.
And as if there were not bigger things for St. Louis to worry about, the sheriff adds another headache for city leaders. We'll explain at 7:35, so stay tuned.
All right. Here's the thing, guys, is I think it's going to happen here to some degree.
Yes.
Not to the level that we're seeing in LA.
No.
Thank goodness. But there is a sort of subset of the miscreants here in the St. Louis area.
Mm-hmm.
And they are looking for any excuse to cause trouble,
Now, I don't think it'll even rise to the same level as the Black Lives Matter.
No, I don't think so. I think they're looking for this. I think they're looking for the ignition. They want something to give them an excuse.
Right. That's sure. You're right.
So, but I think you're right. I don't think it's going to get there. Now, we saw, like, for instance, in the George Floyd protest,
right?
When the Michael Brown stuff happened and Ferguson burned.
Yeah.
That was essentially concentrated in North County.
Yeah.
It did spill out in other areas, but we also saw that there were troublemakers from all over the country that were basically bussed in to cause some of the problems once things started erupting.
Oh, yeah.
And that's to some degree what we're seeing in Los Angeles right now. And you're seeing demonstrations planned all over the country. Now, St. Louis doesn't have one of the designated ones, and Newsweek.com, by the way, has the map directly from the organizers. Now, you also saw during the George Floyd version of all of these, in the BLM and George Floyd stuff, that did hit downtown St. Louis and some other areas as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I just found out, thanks to one of our friends in the conservative movement, real active in state politics, is that it looks like in De Pere and Baldwin along Manchester, the No Kings protest movement is what they're calling themselves. They are planning some kind of demonstration Saturday midday. So beware, because Manchester can be a pain in the butt anyway, even on the weekends because of all the stores and restaurants that are there. Don't be surprised if they try to gum the works up there.
Now, to my understanding as well, because of the tornadoes, the National Guard was recently mobilized into the St. Louis area to try to help out with that. Do you think that that's going to have any impact on these protesters, or have they already left the area?
They're still here because it was a 2-week deployment that they just got in, which is almost which is almost up, because what's happening now is the tornado relief stuff is being concentrated to Chaffetz Arena as kind of a clearinghouse for everything. And the thing is with the Guard is that they have a specific declared mission for their deployment. And if it is outside the scope of that, they're not going to be directed over. So if there's trouble, the governor has to basically do a separate mission and deployment for that. So they can't say, oh, we've got trouble in Baldwin. Go ahead and divert them from North City to Baldwin. He really can't do that. Now, here's the thing is Mike Kehoe has not been tested on this sort of thing. Hopefully he's not tested this weekend.
Right.
I don't think he wants that. I don't want that. My hope is that, as much as I think these are some leftist numbskulls, that they stay peaceful, stay within their First Amendment rights, have their say. We can just roll our eyes and laugh at them as we drive by. And that's the way it's supposed to work. You have your say. I have my say. Then we go about living peacefully in the United States of America.
Right.
But there's a concentration of these organizers who want there to be trouble. They want people to be agitated into blocking off a main thoroughfare like Manchester, like Delmar, like some other areas that they've done in the past.
Yeah, the last thing we need is for the governor to sit there and say, oh, no, they're actually rioting in the St. Louis area. Another $100 million needs to go to the KC Stadium.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think their typical targets tended to be the government buildings, right? They'd go after a federal building downtown, or they'd go after a county seat of some sort. But in those instances, I think that's when the freest hand, I think, for law enforcement would be is if you're throwing something, or if you're banging on a door of a federal building or a state government building or something like that. I think that's when it shouldn't even be a question. It's like, okay, immediately you're getting hemmed up. You're getting thrown in the paddy wagon. I think the more loosey goosey areas or the how do I say this? The areas where it could be a little more problematic for law enforcement to go hard is when they are doing something like impeding traffic, or otherwise kind of agitating in a public area. Then the rules get, I guess, maybe the interpretation of the rules can get a little murky, and I think cops and the like are more reluctant to put their hands on
well, and there's also a tactical thing, because a lot of times we get mad at law enforcement saying these idiots, whether they're climate protesters or whatever it is, they're sitting in the road and you're standing in between them and the cars.
Right.
Well, they understand that if they let people like me out to grab them by the throat and throw them off, that somebody's going to throw hands, and then all hell's going to break loose.
Then it's a true riot.
Right. And so they're trying to maintain peace, even though they're enabling these left-wing lunatics. Now, I'm not saying that's what they're going to do this time around, but keep in mind, some of this is tactical.
Yeah.
And to say, well, we got 10 of us here, they've got 30 protesters, and we've got 200 cars.
Right.
So we're going to try to snip the fuse. And I get that. But it's still enabling the morons and allowing them to violate the rest of our rights.
Now, Buck's mom is posting that it's also going to be affecting South Lindbergh, Keener, I believe that's how that's pronounced,
Keener, yeah,
and a couple of other locations, because they're actually posting the locations on the Nextdoor app. So
they've added to it. Okay.
So I'm not saying to go out of your way and be a rooftop Korean for a business.
No.
Rittenhouse is busy enough, but
yeah.
But at the same time, if this is something you're legitimately concerned about, or if you have a job, obviously, like most people have jobs, and you want to avoid this nonsense altogether, it might be worth going on the Nextdoor app and just kind of looking at what locations people are talking about organizing, so you can just plan another route to
just
go.
get together. I mean, the worst thing you can do to these people is starve them of the attention. Remember, they're not trying to win your heart, soul, mind, or vote.
Right.
They're trying to punish you.
They want to make your life miserable, because they're miserable people, but they want to make your life miserable. Remember, these are basically, whether they realize it or not, they are foot soldiers in a revolutionary communist mindset.
Absolutely.
That's what they're doing. Now, they may be just, I'm a college student and I want to make a difference and change the world.
Yeah, pretty much.
That may be what they're thinking, but they're a useful idiot. And I'm using that as a historical term. And so they are the useful idiot who is basically, ready to try to cause misery in advancement of this, leftist ideology, this extremist. I mean, let's just call it what it is, this communist mindset. The Service Employees International Union is basically a communist activist group.
Right.
And there are hundreds, if not thousands of members of that in the St. Louis area. Now, I'm not saying every member is a communist. There are probably people who just want to go to work, at their job, but they have to pay the union dues. Your money is being used to support this. This group of protesters, while supportive of the other, looks like it's a separate group. My guess is that when we start seeing the pictures, it's going to be a lot of the same people who are doing the anti-Semitic protest of, 4, 5, 6 months ago, something like that.
Right. Now, Duke J on Rumble asked an interesting question. He said, I heard they were supposed to have a permit, so they should all be locked up. Now,
yeah,
I don't know about the permitting requirements or things like that, but I mean, it brings up an interesting question, though, because we do have permitting requirements sometimes for large planned gatherings.
Depends on where you are.
And it depends on where you are. Depends on what the location is. At a park, I can see it. Yeah. If it's just a sidewalk, I don't think you don't need a permit
for that. No, but if you're on a public ground,
yes,
you need a permit. So the answer to that is sometimes. Depends on where they are.
Yeah.
Now, here's a question for you, gentlemen. When is a riot not a riot? Maybe Larry Connors has the answer.
Interesting.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Downright gorgeous today, but warmer flow kicks in tomorrow. We could be looking at the hottest day of the year so far on Wednesday. But first, tons of sunshine today, low humidity. There will be some Canadian wildfire smoke in our sky from time to time. 83 this afternoon. Count on clear skies tonight as we drop to a low of 64, and then tomorrow mostly sunny and hotter. I'm forecasting a high of 90. Still trending rain-free all the way through Thursday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA, SIPC.
Larry Connors Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit VincentsJewelers.com. This is Larry Connors Commentary on News Talk STL.
When is a riot not a riot? Well, that would be when leftists are involved, throwing objects meant to harm and destroy. For them, that's just fun and games. In fact, part of a protest that some leftist reporters might even label a peaceful protest, despite cars burning in the background and protesters launching commercial-grade fireworks at police. Well, of course, I'm describing the most recent L.A. riots, protests. But there's no way this behavior can be excused, relabeled, nor should it be. Yet the fact that Trump ordered up the National Guard and 500 active duty Marines to move into place in case they're needed, his action is considered vile and causing violence. I know if you're looking for some kind of understanding, you're not going to find it, because that is so far out of touch with reality. There's violence and Trump trying to stop it. The only thing that fits is the leftist narrative. Make that the leftist lie.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Tony Colombo here for the Farmers Co-op Old Town Country Store in Old Town St. Peters, where they have a huge selection of products and services for your yard and home, including a full line of lawn and garden products, a full line of products for animal care, and that includes anything from livestock to the family dog or cat. They'll fill any size propane tank for about half the price of a new one, and so much more. Visit them in St. Peters on 2nd Street, right behind the QT at 70 and Mid-Rivers Mall Drive, and check out all their products and services at oldtowncountrystore.com.
Happy Father's Day!
For Father's Day, families everywhere giving dads 40% of the effort they put into Mother's Day. Dad, I love you.
I appreciate everything you've done for me and all the sacrifices.
I love you, Dad. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day for everybody.
Happy Father's Day.
My father's a hero. Thank you for everything, Pops.
Happy Father's Day from some of Dad's favorites: Ray Ray's Kettle Corn, Pretty Little Paws, the Augusta Chamber of Commerce, and News Talk STL.
Another RX Watch, brought to you by Onder Law.
There's an evil new twist in the tragic story of baby powder and its link to ovarian cancer. Recently uncovered documents reveal that talc can contain asbestos.
The same asbestos that we know causes mesothelioma.
Right, and ovarian cancer.
In the 1970s, the industry wrote its own rules, allowing Johnson & Johnson to claim that its talc was asbestos-free, as long as it contained less than 1% asbestos.
Of course, Johnson & Johnson helped write those rules. So while we're using hazmat suits to remove the asbestos from our homes, Johnson & Johnson was telling women it's safe for their bodies.
Unbelievable. So if you've used talcum powder for feminine hygiene and contracted ovarian cancer, call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
They've already won several large verdicts against Johnson & Johnson for women just like you.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH. That's 1-800-RX-WATCH or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
You know what's going on?
Have a great awakening.
You see through the smoke screen.
It's cool to be woke. News Talk STL.
Until it's not.
News, analysis, opinion.
I love that you're starting your day off right with Mike Ferguson in the morning. It's your boy Joe Pags. Talk to you tonight. But now let's get back to Mike.
And to quote Joe Pags, come on.
Do
All right. The mayor says she cannot trust the sheriff. Them's big words coming out of an administration.
Well, you can trust the News Talk STL app though, because it's awesome.
Yes.
I mean, well, here's the thing: it's reliable radio. If you have a phone, you have a radio. So everywhere you go, you don't have to worry about signal interference. We were getting reports on signal interference some here and there occasionally. You don't have to worry about that transition area between the 101.9 signal and the 94.1 signal. You could take us internationally. We've had people go on vacation to Europe and talk about tuning in on the show.
I bet you that Chris Arps is listening to us right now.
That's right.
On the News Talk STL app.
That's right.
And he's in Israel.
He's in Israel right now. So that's awesome because he always likes to wake up with. He's part of the Get Up crew. So what you can do also with the News Talk STL app is my favorite feature is the Wheel of Fun.
Yes.
Right. So you hit the little that button in the middle on the bottom, and it will give you a little circular menu of things to do. And one of the things I like doing is hitting one of our social media apps. So you can just jump right over. You can share the content that you're listening to right then. You can comment on anything that we're talking about on air through that portion of the app. So get it and have some fun with it. Join the conversation.
Okay, so Alfred Montgomery is he is the headache that the St. Louis city government does not need right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean we've had a lot of fun with the drama on this because, as I mentioned earlier, Alfred Montgomery is the guy who lied on his resume.
Yes.
Said, yeah, I can do that job. Said all the right things in the interview, got hired, got to work, and now has no clue what he's doing.
Yeah, you use a standard abbreviation from your job, and he looks at you with the big eyes, like, okay,
what is
all right.
this?
All
you
right.
know, it's
Okay.
the guy who, in a more harmless setting, lied about being an accomplished accountant, but doesn't know how to use Excel.
Right. So how do I make it add things?
Right. Yeah, that's right. And this is getting pretty serious because here's what we got. Now, first of all, if this were just happening at any other time, honestly, my take on this probably would have been, let's just keep making fun of it because it's just more dysfunction in the St. Louis city government.
Oh yeah, we'd still be talking about loaded dice.
Yeah, we talk about Alfred Loaded Dice Montgomery, and I'd be laughing at it, and I'm sure we will at some point down the future. But here you've got a city, and we know how unsympathetic I am to the government of the city of St. Louis. They have brought their own problems on themselves, except they didn't bring that tornado on themselves. And they are trying to deal with over $1.5 billion of damage from a tornado, 5 lives lost, thousands of buildings damaged, including people's entire homes. Now they may take a different approach to trying to help them than I would. I think there are more effective ways, but I'm not going to criticize when they're trying to do the best that they can, even if I don't think their worldview and outlook is the right one. I'm not going to win them over to a libertarian free market thought. So I'm not going to criticize them, but that's why I say the Mayor Spencer, the Board of Alder critters, they do not need Alfred Montgomery's nonsense right now, and they have to take time to deal with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, at one point he says, well, we need more money. Well, it turns out he gave people raises just unilaterally with a stroke of a pen. He went and bought a $52,000 SUV, luxury SUV.
Yeah, the luxury version.
Yeah. He went and bought golf carts. And then he says, no, my officers will not be transporting inmates to medical facilities, even though that's been an expectation of the job for decades and decades and decades. And then he gets called out and he says, okay, fine, I'm going to do that. And I've got a clip of that. But KMOV's David Amalotti did a story on this because now we've got him backtracking again. Here's part of that story from KMOV.
Right now, I have lost my confidence in the sheriff.
Mayor Kara Spencer says Sheriff Alfred Montgomery and his office committed a tremendous failure by refusing one of their jobs, the medical transport of multiple city jail inmates.
It is a failure of extreme magnitude, the ramifications of which I can't speak to right now, but what I can say is that it is absolutely imperative that we get the folks who need medical assistance to the hospital when they need it, without question.
Yeah, and that's she says, I can't speak to it. There's actually a reason for that because you're looking at liability issues.
Yeah.
At this point, she's the mayor of the city, and the sheriff is a department in the city of St. Louis. I mean, now it's weird because St. Louis City is essentially a county.
Yeah.
This is a separately elected position, but it's the same jurisdiction, and somebody has to take them to the doctor, have to take them to the medical facility. When that happens, that's part of being in custody. And I'm not going to go through that explanation again. I think everybody's heard that. But the sheriff was called out by the Board of Aldermen saying, wait a minute, are you now for sure saying, so we're clear that your office will resume taking inmates to medical facilities? And that's where this part of David Amalotti's story picks up.
We're going to transport them. Have you withdrawn this letter in its totality? I think I made it very clear that letter is withdrawn. It's null, it's void. It does not exist anymore. It's done.
But the next day, First Alert 4 confirmed the sheriff went back on his word. In a statement from the Department of Public Safety, the sheriff's office refused 5 medical transport requests, 1 on June 3rd, 2 on June 5th, 1 on June 6th, and 1 on June 7th. In all 5 instances, transports were handled by the Division of Corrections.
He promised he would do it. And to find out in retrospect that to have it confirmed by the Director of Public Safety just this afternoon that that duty was not fulfilled is truly horrendous.
And so, Gabe, here's the thing is that the sheriff basically then says, well, there's no specific law that says I have to do that. Now, that's been
so crazy.
That's been an expectation. That's been the job description, part of the job description of the sheriff's office for decades. I mean, and every other sheriff has been able to handle this. And so essentially he goes, well, show me in writing. So the Board of Aldermen is taking time out.
So crazy.
To debate and discuss an ordinance that lays out these specific job duties in city law, needing to put it into city law instead of allowing the flexibility and saying this is the understanding of your duties that every other sheriff's been able to handle except you, dude.
This reminds me of how I think there should be more stipulations about how to not just remove bad city, and it's even elected officials.
They say it's tricky because he's elected.
It is, yeah. I mean, not just city officials, but elected officials. I mean, we have methods of removing elected officials, but I think on some level there needs to be rules about how to punish them for doing these things. Because the thing is, it's okay, yes, you lose your access, you lose your power, whatever. But the thing is, we've seen people now not just be incompetent, but be deliberately disdainful of the job they're supposed to do, the job they were elected to do, the job they're paid to do. And it's just there's something about it that hits me the wrong way. And I always think, like, you know what? You need to not just be removed from your position. You need to be fined for wasting our freaking time.
Alfred Montgomery has made all of this about Alfred Montgomery.
Yes,
this
absolutely.
is all about him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's the star of the show. He's the victim. He's everything except the people that he is supposed to be serving. And the people that he's supposed to be serving are the officers of the court, the people who are in the courts for security reasons. And yes, the inmates who are suspected of crimes and are in the jail. It's his job to make sure they are transported to and from safely.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, basically the public to keep them safe from the people who are being transported. I mean, it's a very, very narrow list of duties, and everybody's been able to handle it, some better than others. Everybody's been able to handle it except Alfred Montgomery, but he's even tried to pull the race card on this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in front of the mostly black city council. It's amazing. Now imagine the civil liability if his refusal to transport a particular inmate, maybe they're having some sort of a medical emergency or something like that, his or something.
Right.
A civil lawsuit by the family of this individual who dies in custody, and we've seen that happen. People reaching room temperature in the jail for no reason, because they had the time it took to go from the proper request to the sheriff's office versus, okay, now we have to transfer that request elsewhere. That's got to take time.
Or
That's
we have
gotta
to
be
call an
bureaucracy.
ambulance for a non-emergency thing, taking an ambulance out of service.
Yes, all of that. And all that's just because this moron doesn't want to do his job.
Yeah. I mean, he needs to be removed from office. The mayor was asked about that. She would not comment. That to me could be a good sign, but I don't know for sure. All right. Just ahead here. Simone Biles says, Riley Gaines, you look like a dude. I'm not making that up.
He actually did that.
She actually did that.
Well, there you go again, listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Nate Lucas here for the Village Bar in the heart of Des Peres. Since 1948, the Village Bar has been the go-to destination for delicious food, cold drinks, and unbeatable atmosphere. Savor their famous wings, burgers, and onion rings, or grab a drink from their fully stocked bar. Catch all the big games and enjoy the company of their friendly staff. Plus, don't miss the 1879 Distillery, a one-of-a-kind experience right next door. The Village Bar offers the best value in town. Find the Village Bar on Facebook and come experience where history meets great times. You'll be glad you did.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 2 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
I'm Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Human trafficking is occurring right here in Missouri. You can help combat it by learning the signs of human trafficking and reporting suspicious activity to law enforcement. Victims may appear malnourished, show signs of mental or physical abuse, or avoid social interaction. If you're a victim or know someone who needs help, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888 or text the word HELP to Be Free. Together, we can fight human trafficking in Missouri.
Brought to you by the Missouri Attorney General's Office.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum-sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here.
Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
I think we've said what we're going to say on the whole boys and girls sports things, but every once in a while, somebody steps up and says something particularly stupid.
Like super stupid.
Like Simone Biles just did. So Simone Biles decides to start a feud with Riley Gaines and says Riley looks like a man.
Riley Gaines?
Riley Gaines says that she looks like a man.
The Riley Gaines everybody has seen in a swimsuit because she was a swimmer.
Because she was a swimmer, and she also, just as for research purposes, I double checked, was in that swimsuit calendar a year or two ago.
Oh yeah, the chicks on the right kind of thing.
It was like the ultra right beer,
right? Yeah,
and that one year they did a bunch of conservative women, like well known, like she and some radio hosts and some others,
right,
that were out there. And let's just say there was no evidence that Riley Gaines looks like a guy.
There's zero evidence for that. No.
Again, I'm like, did I miss something? I should double check.
Right, exactly.
So in the interest of journalism, I double checked, and no, she still does not look like a guy.
No. Now, if there's anything that we have said or done on this radio station,
offensive or not,
that you want to double check, you can actually do so through our podcast. You can go back and look at the previous shows, previous segments. We've even cut them up into certain segments or discussions or interviews that we've had, so you can kind of filter through those. But best of all, you can, if you just subscribe through whatever podcast delivery system you prefer, you can just get us straight to your ears very quickly and with notifications and everything. You can also do that through the app, by the way.
I'm still amazed that the left wants to keep dying on this hill. And Simone Biles, all she had to do was not take a side on the contentious stuff. That's all she had to do, was just not do that.
She was chosen as a commencement speaker
for WashU.
For
she
WashU,
was the commencement speaker this year.
The commencement speaker for WashU, and we were like, "Hey, that's a good choice."
It's awesome,
because I mean, it's not like Dr. Fauci's showing up again, or somebody else kind of particularly.
No, he showed up at Mobap.
He was gosh, but I mean, she wasn't a particularly controversial figure, right?
So we thought WashU would learn their lesson.
We were like, okay, that's good job. And then Simone Biles decides to, you know what? I'm going to piss off everybody who likes me in this 80-20 issue.
I'm going to reach up and punch you in the kneecap. See, gymnasts are very short.
She's a very
small human.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, and I wrote in on the show. I wrote in a joke about maybe her just being on WashU's campus for a day had this stupid effect on her. I don't know. But that's the thing is, so she goes on this Twitter, this X rant against Riley Gaines, who Riley Gaines spoke up rightly in defense of girls in girls sports. And this came from the video that made national headlines in Minnesota, where a pervert, mentally confused high school boy decided to be on the softball team, and he's the pitcher on the girls team, and they won the state championship. And he was just blowing.
Oh, yes.
I mean, like they would get maybe one hit a game or two. I mean, there's nobody who could compete with him.
Virtual shutout.
And she spoke up in favor of keeping girls sports for girls.
Right.
And then Simone Biles decides she's going to pick a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, Riley Gaines is much more experienced in this.
Yes.
And then Simone Biles is like, bully somebody your own size, which ironically would be a guy.
Yeah. Like, really?
That's where you want to go with this?
At 5'5", 136?
Yeah.
it's like that's a guy just closer to her. So yeah, maybe a teenage boy. Yeah. I mean, and what's funny too is, and Riley Gaines brought this up, was that somewhere along the way, Simone Biles was even being sort of body shamed, as the left might say, for having sort of certain masculine features. She's very muscular arms.
Yeah, she's a very muscular. There's a lot of muscle packed into that small frame,
right?
Which
exactly.
You would expect with from an Olympic.
Yeah, I mean, she's an Olympic athlete, right? So, and of course, it was unfair characterization, back in the, and she was defended, against those kind of accusations of her masculine frame, and now she's going after Riley Gaines, who doesn't, not even close to masculine, and she's doing the same thing, and in defense, and this is all in defense of boys. pretending to be girls in women's sports, and it's kind of crazy. And Riley Gaines also said this, that it's kind of like the same thing as what Rapinoe did, just pulling the ladder up behind yourself. You got your accolades. You're pretty much you're done. You're not really going to compete anymore. You don't have to worry about competing against a man in your sport ever. So you're just going to pull the ladder up behind you and jump onto the pro-trans in sports bandwagon to get some sort of virtue signal accolades.
Here's part of the news article about this whole spat here. Gaines broke down the social media post aimed at her from Biles in a recent episode of Outkick's Gaines for Girls podcast. The former NCAA All-American swimmer specifically talked about the Olympic gymnast imploring her to create, quoting here, so this is a quote from Biles, a new avenue where trans feel safe in sports, and then offering the idea of, once again, quoting Simone Biles, transgender category in all sports. Okay, so that was interesting. And then Riley Gaines responds, I don't think she, meaning Simone Biles, I don't think she realizes that in one sentence, she's admitting that these people who say they are transgender women are just men, are really just men. She's admitting that by saying we should have a third category. I hope she realizes that. She went on to say, secondly, this is Riley Gaines talking, this has been done several times now. FINA, now known as World Aquatics, which is the international governing body of swimming, they were very quick to do this. Following the national championships, they did create a third category, even at the international really high-level meets, to which they said, we welcome all who are non-binary, gender non-conforming, those who identify as transgender. This is a category for you. So basically my add-on would be, so the freak category.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you free category. And in another kind of response to this, or part of I guess her larger response, Riley Gaines was saying, "Look, it's not my job to advocate for them.
No,
like my job is to advocate for women because I'm a woman,
right?
Right?
And it's an injustice,
and it's an injustice, absolutely. And so the suggestions, every time one of these virtue signalers come up with their suggestions, they're always wrong-headed. They're always coming from a weird position. It's always something wrong, some wrong premise that they're jumping off.
Isn't Simone Biles the one who had a bad day, had a bad week, got depressed,
she got the spinnies,
quit on her team in the Olympics?
Sure did,
because of her mental health episode.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris. How are you, Vic? I don't want to put anybody else down, but when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. President Trump is sending 2,000 more National Guard troops and 700 Marines to the riot-scarred streets of Los Angeles. California Governor Gavin Newsom objects. He's suing the administration, arguing the president's attempt to restore law and order violates state sovereignty.
When it comes to Newsom's handling of violent immigration protests in Los Angeles, the president isn't shy about criticizing the Democrat.
He's destroying one of our great states, and he's grossly incompetent.
Donald Trump went as far as to suggest that the governor should be arrested, saying it would be a great thing. The president's border czar has warned that anyone, including public officials, would be arrested if they obstructed federal immigration enforcement. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Another night of heavy Russian drone and missile strikes brings more destruction, injury, and death to Ukraine. Kiev among cities targeted for attack.
Plumes of smoke were visible over the city as air defense forces worked to shoot down drones and missiles on Tuesday morning. Ukrainian residents took shelter and slept deep underground during the hours-long attack. Ukrainian and Western officials have been anticipating a Russian response to Ukraine's audacious June 1 drone attack on distant Russian air bases.
Correspondent Charles de Ledesma says Odessa was also hit. The death toll, at least 3, at least 13 people wounded. Secretary of Health Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says a CDC vaccine advisory panel has been tarnished by conflicts of interest, and that's why the body needs to be reconstituted. Kennedy has dismissed all 17 members of the panel. 8 students, 1 teacher are dead in a high school shooting in Graz, Austria. Police say the gunman is also dead. Nothing on a motive for that deadly attack. On Wall Street this morning, ahead of the opening bell, the Dow futures are up 10 points. NASDAQ futures 35 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys, and I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia. I got a tour of their headquarters. I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Downright gorgeous today, but warmer flow kicks in tomorrow. We could be looking at the hottest day of the year so far on Wednesday. But first, tons of sunshine today, low humidity. There will be some Canadian wildfire smoke in our sky from time to time. 83 this afternoon. Count on clear skies tonight as we drop to a low of 64, and then tomorrow mostly sunny and hotter. I'm forecasting a high of 90. Still trending rain-free all the way through Thursday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
From home improvement to replacement,
Do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Mike Ferguson.
This is the kind of adventure I usually have to force upon us, and here it is, falling into our laps.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
They're buying it.
In case you hear the alarm. Get up, St. Louis.
Watch a couple squats, son.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin.
All right, so much going on here. It looks like we're going to have some more activity over the weekend. These protests looks like are going to be spreading. I'll give you the details here in just a little bit. About a month later, though, federal disaster relief finally headed to St. Louis, and a top federal official says they are going to hit back against the rioters, which the SRN folks who do our national news, they referred to yesterday as the fourth day of anarchy. I think that's pretty spot on, guys. I think pretty much. All right, 8:06 right now. Let's bring you up to date with the news dump here.
The morning news dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks. The morning news dump.
$71 million. That is the federal disaster relief money headed for St. Louis. The Trump administration notified Governor Kehoe of that decision on Monday. Now, of that $71 million, $60 million is going to be used for individuals who need assistance and local government agencies that were affected by the May tornado. This is in addition to whatever state funding is going to be considered in the special session this week. The tornado caused at least $1.6 billion in damage. That number is probably going to go up. And I just want to remind everybody, we talk about these numbers and we talk about the dollars. 5 people were killed by this tornado. Yeah. So that's, that has all but gotten lost already. So let's just keep that in mind that 5 people died in that as well. All right. More members of the U.S. military are heading to Los Angeles in the wake of the recent violence. Here's the story.
The Pentagon has deployed about 700 Marines to L.A. to help National Guard members respond to protests over immigration raids. The Marines are being deployed from their base in the Southern California desert to protect federal property and personnel. Meanwhile, President Trump authorized the deployment of another 2,000 National Guard members, even as California filed a lawsuit against the administration for trampling on the state's authority. Greg Clugston, Washington.
30 minutes from right now, we're going to be visiting with legal analyst Keith Gross to give us that take. Because now that the Marines are being deployed, what can they do? What can they not do? Because there are rules, and those of us who are of the small government persuasion, we want to make sure that even our side does not go too far.
Absolutely. I mean, look, if it was Joe Biden deploying the Marines domestically, we'd all be worried.
Absolutely.
Just a little bit. It's like, what exactly are you trying to do, Joe?
Yes.
And so we still need to ask the question, regardless of who the president is. What are you trying to do? Is it legal? Is what's going on here? So these are good questions to ask, and hopefully Keith will help us navigate.
Absolutely. All right. LA Mayor Karen Bass still blaming the violence and the riots on the Trump administration. I am pretty sure at this point that if they have a windstorm, they're going to blame it on the Trump administration.
Yes.
I am pretty sure if somebody steps on gum on the sidewalk and ruins their new shoes, they're going to blame it on the Trump administration.
Remember the thanks Obama meme?
That's right.
Back in the day, where now, of course, that was a joke. That was a you blame
even Obama got in on that.
Even Obama got in. It was like, yeah, thanks, Obama. What was it? He dipped his Oreo in his milk, and then he lifted it up to his mouth, and half of it fell back in the milk. Right? He goes, "Thanks, Obama."
Yeah.
And he was Obama, right?
Yeah.
He's actually doing that. So, but they're literal. The left right now is literally blaming Trump for everything.
Yeah, they really are, including all of this violence. Here's the mayor talking to reporters.
We were told that raids would be to look for violent criminals, people who had warrants. But I don't know how you go from a drug dealer to a Home Depot, to people's workplaces where they're just trying to make a living.
See, and that would be a good point if we were just having a policy discussion, but that's not what's happening. Now, if you want to argue that as a matter of policy, okay, Oh, that's an interesting discussion. That's an interesting debate. You're still wrong.
You're still wrong. Yes, absolutely.
But at least that you could make an argument that's understandable and debatable, and you can have a conversation in polite society over coffee.
Right. Exactly.
But that's not what you're doing.
But that's absolutely not what they're doing, and especially in light of what we've been seeing because of these riots. So basically, what happened is ICE went in to do their job. People got uppity. And then somebody got involved. I think an outside organization. I think some big pockets, some deep pockets got involved, and it turned into a riot. And then law enforcement had to respond, and the president responded with the National Guard.
It got out of control, and the president said, "We're going in now."
And here's a question: how does the presence of National Guard escalate individuals into action anyway? Like, how would that work? How just logically, does it make sense if you say, okay, I'm totally out here being peaceful, and now I see one of those idiots in a uniform, and I'm gonna start throwing rocks.
Somebody give me a cinder block.
Does that make sense?
No,
it doesn't even make sense, even if it were true that the National Guard came out of nowhere.
Right, and that's the thing is you just got Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, Adam Schiff, others just lying, straight up lying. Maxine Waters lying, saying you agitated and created all of this. The National Guard was sent in to respond to the violence. And Secretary Kristi Noem was on Hannity last night being asked about that.
We're going to use the authority that he has as president of the United States to conduct these operations. And the more that people conduct violence against law enforcement officers, boy, we're going to hit them back, and we're going to hit them back harder than we ever have before.
Now, keep in mind, Gavin Newsom is going to court, suing to try to get a court to order the president to pull the Guard out. The Guard, which is responding to try to quell the riots and stop the looting. That's what Gavin Newsom wants no part of, is somebody stopping it. So basically, he doesn't want the president getting credit for stopping the riots that he and his state have allowed.
Right, exactly.
Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Oh, good God. All right. She lost confidence in the sheriff. That is the word directly from Mayor Kara Spencer. Now, that comes after the city's public safety department confirms that Sheriff Alfred Montgomery's office refused multiple requests to transport inmates to and from medical care, despite his public promise to do exactly that. And that was a promise made on record at a city Board of Aldermen meeting. The Board of Aldermen is now considering an ordinance that reiterates and just puts it into writing what the exact duties of the sheriff's department are, the duties that every other sheriff has been able to handle, and Alfred Montgomery cannot,
right,
or will not.
Yeah, he is maliciously incompetent.
Yeah,
and I'll say it that way because it seems as though one, he can't do the job. I don't think he's capable of doing the job. I don't think he's a good administrator.
Right.
I don't think he thinks about the things that administrators should think about to do the job. But also his main character syndrome that he's suffering from, where he thinks, the entire world seems to revolve around him. He's the victim. He's the subject of this untoward scrutiny, and he's just a black man.
A black man got elected,
and people just treating me like nothing. Look, that's a paraphrase, by the way, of his testimony in front of the city, the Board of Aldermen, the mostly black Board of Aldermen.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's malicious in his incompetence. And I think he needs to pay for it.
That's a good way to put it. Very good way to put it. All right. The travel ban went into effect. I think a lot of people forget that went into effect yesterday because all the other headlines are, dominating right now. 12 different countries are now banned from allowing people to travel from there to the United States. Another 7 countries have partial bans in effect right now. Congressman Brian Mast is a Republican out of Florida. He was on Fox Business Channel's The Bottom Line discussing that ban that's now in effect.
They can't ensure with the government in place who it is that's actually coming through, just like right now with the government of Afghanistan being the Taliban, there's no trust whatsoever that who the Taliban would offer a visa to would actually be who they say they were. You're talking about two different windows of time when you deal with Afghanistan.
And the ban mostly, not entirely, mostly affects countries in Africa and the Middle East. All right, the Cardinals had the lead, then they blew the lead.
It's in their hands.
It was right there. They could have had it. St. Louis loses the first game of the series to the Blue Jays last night in 10 innings. Final score at Busch Stadium was 5-4. Today's game 2 of that series, starts at 6:45 with Miles Michaelis on the mound, and you can catch that game on FanDuel.
Inspiration, you have a soul soon that it is no more. And all at once depart, no destination, making cold my to fight your war. Stop!
Ferguson in the morning
Let me just say this with all due respect. You really don't know what you're talking about right now.
on News Talk STL.
Before you blow us all away.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
Happy Father's Day.
For Father's Day, families everywhere giving dads 40% of the effort they put into Mother's Day.
Dad, I love you.
I appreciate everything you've done for me and all the sacrifices.
I love you, Dad.
Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day for everybody.
Happy Father's Day.
My father's a hero.
Thank you for everything, Pops.
Happy Father's Day from some of Dad's favorites. Iron Bear Customs, Patriot Powder Coating, Tropical World Beds, and News Talk STL.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colony.
Sweet, I'll bring my 500 cousins. This'll be the biggest ant rager of the summer. Let's party!
Wait, oh, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. We'd love to help you out. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 636-486-7888.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine-in or carry-out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a steakhouse. We're a tradition.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
and listen anytime, anywhere.
In my eyes.
Hi, this is Susie Moore. Check out my show, Red State Radio, Sunday afternoon at 4, right here on News Talk STL. Now it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right. Do you want government giving you your first investment account? President Trump is suggesting that.
And the country is watching. California is going to court trying to block the Trump administration from using the guard to stop riots. We know Governor Newsom doesn't care about his people, but does he have a legal case here? We're going to dig into that at 8:35 with Keith Gross.
Yep, exactly. It is 8:18 right now. All right, this is something a little bit different. And I caught this in one of the other newscasts, national newscasts. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You know, there can be something that, all right, let me just put this. I'm curious what people think about this. So send me a note on social media, or you can give me a call or you know, whatever the case is. So here's the thing, parents, you should be starting some kind of nest egg for, you know, your little hatchlings.
Yes.
Okay. I think that, but the question is, should government be doing that for you? I remember, like, for instance, I found out, you know, later in life when I got into like my late high school, college years that my parents bought savings bonds.
Right.
For me when I was born and for my brother. And I set up those, insurance policies for my kids that were the, cash value building, tax exempt, ones. And so I didn't do as much as I probably should have, but I did something, and my parents did something to start that at very low dollar. None of us were rich when we first started having kids.
Yeah.
I'm not rich now, but anyway, so get this. The president announced yesterday a pilot program, and apparently this is built in, I guess, to the so-called Big Beautiful Bill.
Oh, is it?
A federal program, or he's trying to get it in there. I don't know if it's going to make it in the thing.
Right.
He's literally calling this Trump accounts.
I saw that portion of it. I was like, clearly,
really?
yes. Okay.
Come on. Okay. So here's what he had to say. Here's how it's going to work.
For every U.S. citizen born after December 31st, 2024, before January 1st, 2029, the federal government will make a one-time contribution of $1,000 into a tax-deferred account that will track the overall stock market.
Okay, so basically every American citizen child born during his term would get $1,000 for the government and an investment in Wall Street.
I mean, it sounds like an okay-ish kind of sort of, I can see where he's coming from idea, but the fact that it doesn't sound like as of right now, the children of illegals are still technically U.S. citizens has not been closed. So I don't want my taxes paying for those kids.
Okay, so see, let me follow up on that, because here's the thing. Two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
Setting up an account like this at or even near birth is a good idea.
Yes.
To get your child started in life. They will thank you when they're 25 or 30 or 35. But the other thing that could be true is government shouldn't be doing it. It's not my job to pay for your kid's nest egg.
Yeah. Now here's a question though, because we've already accepted on some level, we've accepted government help with kids. The child tax credit is basically the same thing.
But that's just agreeing to not take as much money.
No, the child tax credit is money to you. Someone who does not pay taxes
okay,
gets the child tax credit.
They get in the form of a so-called refund, even if they didn't have it. Okay,
exactly. So we've already accepted it. I know this because my wife would come home when her first job in America was working at an H&R Block, and she would have people with no income leave with checks of money and be mad about how low the check is.
Yeah.
So that was her first introduction to the entitlement culture in America. But so we've already on some level accepted that the government gives people money for kids.
Right. So
this would just be a different flavor of that.
Yeah, but it's also obviously would be a boost. They tax us and it goes into whatever mutual account, or whatever the mutual fund account or whatever it is.
Right.
So it basically is a way to prop up, Wall Street.
It would be a Wall Street giveaway. That's true too.
Most likely what he's talking about is what's called an index fund.
Yes.
So you buy into an index fund. If it's an index fund for the Dow Jones is up 3%, then yours goes up 3%, that sort of thing. Or it could be a NASDAQ index fund. It could be whatever index
or a New York Stock.
So it's all, based on the totality of the market.
Right.
And so the big question for me is, this is more big government.
Oh yeah.
And calling them Trump accounts. Come on.
Yeah, that's very much such a Trumpian thing.
It's a very Trumpian thing.
It's like, look, I get it. You build a tower, you put your name on it. I like that idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
But come on.
You know what the name of my business is? Mike Ferguson Media.
Exactly. I get it. I am the current president of Pfeiffer Enterprises. Yes, that's the thing. So I get it.
But we're not using government to require somebody else to have something in my name.
This is not the government. Stop it.
So there's that, which is just eye-rollingly Trumpian.
Yes.
But let's talk about also, why am I paying for you to give somebody $1,000 in investments? Why is that the government's job? And what's so special about a kid born on January 1st of 2025 as opposed to born December 31st, 2024.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Now in the overall, my preference would be, first of all, that income taxes would go away. So then
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
the associated things that go with that income tax system would go away. We would just be a sales tax government. That our country would run entirely on sales taxes. That would be my druthers, right? But here's the thing. If the reality is that that the government is going to be intrusive to this degree, because it already is. The government has already given us money for our kids. And they're doing so every year, by the way, because that's what the child tax credit does. Every year you claim a kid, the government's giving you, and I can't remember what the child tax credit is right now.
Yeah, because I remember
it's
always
actually more than 1,000.
It was always like when my kids were 18 and under, you know, the child tax credit was something that was deducted off of my tax liability because I've always had jobs.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. The way it works, if you actually have a job, is that it just reduces your tax liability. If you don't have a job, it's a check you get. So there's always that. But yes, I guess I'm looking at it as if this would replace something like that. Or it would be
if it would replace Social Security, as somebody just mentioned on there. Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
That's not what he's doing.
But that's not what he's doing.
He's basically saying, "Hey, free money, free investments."
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, it's not free.
Right. Yeah, well, yeah, definitely not free.
My budget's tight. Why am I paying for this?
Right.
And we are already at a massive national debt. Why are we talking about giving $1,000 per child? You know, just for that's not the role of government.
It is not. Jay Kaz on Rumble says it's $2,000. The child tax credit, I believe, is $2,000 for one kid. So look, if you cut the child tax credit to $1,000 per year, and you put $1,000 per year in the stock exchange for that kid, I would actually be okay with that version of this concept, because at the very least, money going into the market actually benefits everybody. I think
I'm sure that's part of, because that's one of the pros of this is it's funneling money into the markets,
right?
Into the investments, and you should be doing something.
Yes.
I mean, you know, I can't tell you how many times I've begged my kids, the minute you start getting a paycheck, please start an IRA, please start an investment. I don't care if it's $25 a month. Do now, did they listen? Probably not.
No,
but
no,
you know, but please, you know, take advantage of the investment opportunities while you're young.
Yes.
To do that. So the financial planning aspect of this is solid.
Yes.
I just am wondering, why am I paying for it, especially when we are trillions of dollars in debt already?
Yeah, I don't like this as an additional program.
Yeah.
If this is an additional program, if this is adding to the money, the outlay that the government is making, no. How about you just cut taxes? How about you cut taxes on working families?
Yes.
So that it doesn't just go to every American. It's like, how about the ones with jobs get a
okay, let me play devil's advocate.
Okay.
And somebody's going to say, yeah, but most people, if we cut the taxes, they're not going to do the right thing and invest.
That's true.
Which is true.
That's true. Yeah, that's fine. Now, again, if we're working within the way the system currently works, I think it would be more beneficial for the government. If the government's already given us $2,000 a kid, it would be more beneficial if the government made these kids stakeholders in the economy, with half of it going into the market. I think basically adding them to the investor class, adding everybody in America to the investor class, I think is a positive.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's part of it.
If they're going to do it that way. My preference is you don't do any of this bullcrap,
right?
And you just, you know. So how do we split the difference? I guess as libertarian-minded conservatives, how do we split the difference between dealing with the world as it is and trying to reshape it into the world we really like?
It comes down to, do the ends justify the means? Is what the question is.
Oof.
You know, the ends are everybody should be part of the investor class. Because when we talk about Wall Street, is this? Well, listen, you got an IRA, you got a 401k, you got a 403b, you're Wall Street.
That's you.
That's you. You're Wall Street. So the ends are everybody has a stake in the economy, and that would inherently make more people conscious of some of these bad government decisions. At the same time, the means is government taking from everybody to fund a few.
Yeah. Well, and
then what happens if the courts say, no, anchor babies are citizens as well? And now all of a sudden you're funding illegal aliens' little nest eggs.
You're funding the anchor babies. I mean, because yeah, absolutely. Because right now, as it is, And I don't agree with the concept of anchor babies and that they could, they're going to grow up, even if you deport their family and they take them with them. These are kids who can legally get a U.S. passport and then come back and sponsor their family to come back over with them, which is how that could work.
The reality is that if you take all the money that you're taxed on, like Social Security and stuff, if you were not taxed for that for Social Security, but you took the same amount of money,
put it in the market,
put it into the market, put it into a mutual fund, put it into something, you would get so much better of a return.
Yes. It's amazing
how much government stepping in and saying, we'll do this for you, hurts everybody. I don't know why anybody thinks this would be any different. Bad move by the president, I think. I just think this was one of those areas I think he's wrong on. Even though I think what he's trying to accomplish, I think is very good. I just hate the idea. I don't like it.
Black hole sun, won't you come? Wash away the rain.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Downright gorgeous today, but warmer flow kicks in tomorrow. We could be looking at the hottest day of the year so far on Wednesday. But first, tons of sunshine today, low humidity. There will be some Canadian wildfire smoke in our sky from time to time. 83 this afternoon. Count on clear skies tonight as we drop to a low of 64, and then tomorrow mostly sunny and hotter. I'm forecasting a high of 90. Still trending rain-free all the way through Thursday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Fox News commentary.
Democrats got their wish. Their martyr, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, returned to the U.S. to face charges. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/policy. That's ethos.com/policy.
Golden boy Kilmar Abrego Garcia was brought back to the U.S. from his home country of El Salvador to face charges, including human trafficking. In an interview with NBC News, President Trump said it wasn't his decision to bring Abrego Garcia back, but the DOJ decided to do it that way, and that's fine. But I can't help but think what a giant waste of U.S. tax dollars it was to fly him back here, go through the rigmarole of criminal charges, pay for his room and board, all to send him right back to El Salvador. But this is what Democrats want. They'll do anything to keep their illegal aliens in your community. This is the hill they're willing to die on, and that's the man they're willing to defend. A man who is here illegally for years, has credible allegations of gang affiliation, protective orders from his wife, and actual footage of his alleged human trafficking. Ladies and gentlemen, the Democrat Party is for they, them, and Abrego Garcia, not for you. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
This is Katie McKinney, founder and head of school for Lafayette Academy in Lake St. Louis. Recently, we had a new second grader come to Lafayette Academy who claimed he was stupid and hated reading. Within months of using our world-class literacy program, he was reading Harry Potter and loving it. He had just not been given the right tools. We invite you to our open house Wednesday, June 25th from 5 till 7 and hear from our current families and learn more about our dedicated teachers and world-class curriculum. To learn more, go to LafayetteAcademy.org. That's LafayetteAcademy.org.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the all-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Yo, this is Vic. All during the month of June, Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every weekday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Brought to you by Best Buy Flooring, Patriot Heating and Cooling, and DG Firearms.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community, Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
With all of the celebrations, anniversaries, and holidays coming up over the next few months, where are you going to go to get that special something for the special people in your life? Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, of course. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers found 24/7 at wowdiamonds.com. Tim Jones here to tell you all about Newsteaders Fine Jewelers. Richard Newsteader and his team serving our region since 1961 with awesome, honest jewelry solutions. They've got everything from diamonds to wedding engagement rings, hand-engraved items, pendants, earrings, and so much more. You can find them 24/7, wowdiamonds.com. That's Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, wowdiamonds.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
On my way to work in the morning.
Usually I'm in the car.
I listen on the app in my car every morning going to work.
Download the News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Hi, this is Jefferson County Councilman Billy Crow with a reminder to check out our new show, Jeffco Patriot Radio, this and every Sunday at high noon. Now, back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
And now we have the lawsuits. Governor Gavin Newsom does not want the president of the United States sending in the Guard to quell the series of what I will refer to as terroristic riots.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Now, on that note, if you can't stay for this amazing conversation we're about to have,
which you should,
which you absolutely should, regarding the legality of sending, with what's going on with the riots in general, don't forget we have an amazing podcast with on-demand listening. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Omni Studio. I'm sure there's some others out there I might be missing, but if you subscribe, you can get alerts to when I finally get around to uploading them, so you never have to miss out on the conversation, and you can brag to your friends about how great we are.
That's true, exactly. All right, let's get some actual legal analyst work going on here. We're now joined by Keith. We are now joined, by Keith Gross. Keith, appreciate you being on. I think it's the first time you've been on the program here. So let me give a little bit of background here. Not only have you been a prosecutor, you were an assistant state attorney in Florida, but you also had the experience of being in the National Guard, serving in Montana as well. So I like this, that you've got two different perspectives on this. I want to start with the National Guard. Now, there's no question that traditionally the governor initiates and asks the president for help if that's going to happen, or the governor just acts on their own. So Governor Gavin Newsom could have called the Guard in, and he's saying, Mr. President, you didn't have the right to. From a legal analysis, does the president have the authority to go in and say, I'm activating the Guard and sending it in to do this civilian duty?
Absolutely. I mean, most National Guardsmen understand that during normal times, you are under the command of your state's governor, but you can be federalized for a number of situations. You're federalized pretty much every year for training during your active duty training experience that you go through. You're federalized during your initial training when you go through basic and so forth. And you can be federalized for deployments. You know, plenty of National Guardsmen from across the United States were deployed to Afghanistan, Iraq, etc. Those National Guardsmen are federalized and become part of the active duty army during federal deployments. The same thing is true during any sort of insurrection or riot or public disorder. The president has really broad constitutional authority as commander-in-chief to use military assets, including the National Guard, to stop those riots and to secure the security of cities.
Okay, so now take off your hat, National Guard experienced hat, put on the one with an attorney for a state. Gavin Newsom files a lawsuit trying to stop and get that order rescinded. Are there any legal bases for this? I mean, what is it that the governor is arguing, from what you understand, and how is this likely to shake out in court?
The governor's case is so weak, it's barely the sort of thing that a lawyer could sign without fearing, ethical consequences from their state bar. I mean, there's 0% chance that Gavin Newsom should win this in court. I mean, he might in some circus of a California court that wants to play lawfare games, but the reality is the president has clear authority to use military assets in this circumstance. And Gavin Newsom objecting to it, frankly, doesn't matter. It's about as dishonest as what they're saying on the news. You see Mayor Bass and Gavin Newsom both calling this Trump's mess. You don't blame law enforcement for arresting the criminal. You blame the criminal for committing the crime. But the folks in California seem to have backwards logic and think that it's Trump's fault for enforcing the law rather than criminals' fault for burning down cities.
Well, yeah, and people we keep pointing this out every time that they're using that soundbite, whether it's the governor or whether it's the mayor, whether it's Adam Schiff or any of those out there, is that the Guard was brought in to deal with the riots. The riots were there before the Guard got in, and now the president is sending about looks like 2,000 more guardsmen and women in as well. But let me also ask you about some of the Marines have been activated as well. It looks like they're going to be guarding some federal buildings, as some of the reports that I'm getting. Is there a difference legally or constitutionally when it comes to the active duty military like the U.S. Marines versus a National Guard? Because at some point there's a line that says, no, you can't deploy active duty military on some civilian things. Where is that line? I think we're talking about the Posse Comitatus Act. What's the application of that? So basically, how far can the president go and where can he not go with that?
Yeah, I mean, there is certainly the difference between National Guard and active duty. As you pointed out, it is the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878. And the exceptions are pretty broad again. So there are exceptions that can be created by congressional authorization. There's exceptions for the National Guard, but then there's also exceptions for constitutional authority. The president can deploy troops under inherent constitutional powers, such as to protect federal property or suppress insurrections. These Article 2 powers as commander-in-chief allow the president to deploy federal troops like Eisenhower did to force desegregation in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957.
So at this point, are there limits on what, like, for instance, the Marines would be allowed to do compared to other, a National Guard branch?
No. Okay. Once one of these proper legal exceptions is met and the president has the authority to deploy, it doesn't really matter what branch they're in or how they're currently titled. The president has broad authority to use his commander-in-chief powers to secure cities and to make sure that any sort of uprising, insurrection, or riots are stopped.
We're visiting with Keith Gross, and we'll give out the contact information as far as social media and web here in just a little bit, Keith. And of course, this all coming from basically a leftist reaction to ICE basically arresting illegal aliens. My personal thought is that these riots were planned. There's nothing organic about these whatsoever. So from a tactical perspective, and I guess I'm asking you to put your military hat back on here, is there a matter of trying to get out ahead of this violence before it becomes too widespread? Because now we've got organizers saying we're going to do this all over the country. Could we be looking at conflicts around America in the next week or so?
I think if we don't get this under control pretty quickly, you're right, it could escalate and metastasize. The last thing we want is some sort of urban deployment in every major city in the U.S. But think about what's really happened over the last 10, 15 years. These cities have declared themselves sanctuaries for illegal aliens, i.e., the leadership in these states and cities have basically committed treason, saying that we will harbor people who are federal fugitives who are coming in from another country without being vetted in many cases. They're waving foreign flags and burning down parts of our cities. They're looting Apple stores because God knows that's the best way to stop ICE, just go and steal some Apple products. I think that we need to just be logical about this. Mayor Bass of LA was on the news this morning saying, stop the raids now. Well, Reagan used to point out that we can all have peace tomorrow. If we just lay down our arms and surrender to the enemy, we can have peace anytime. And that's basically what Mayor Bass is saying. She's saying it's not the criminal's fault for committing the crime. It's law enforcement's fault for trying to enforce it. All you have to do is let the criminal get away with the crime, and we won't have any conflicts at all. I think the way to solve this problem is to bring in more force, bring in more National Guard troops, go through every inch, every block of that city, arrest every single illegal immigrant, and make it clear to the country and the world that we will arrest every one of them. We will deport every one of them. And frankly, we should detain them for the maximum period of law that we can before we deport them, to make it clear that you can self-deport and you can go home tomorrow, or you can wait around and be arrested and sit in prison for 6 months, and then we will send you back.
We've had, just coming off of 4 years of basically the southern border being wide open with a green light and an invitation and essentially, a bunch of benefits if you got to the country illegally for 4 years under the Biden administration. Keith, it's hard to say where we are in history right now because you can't judge history until it's in the rearview mirror. But it seems like we're at a crucial moment in our country right now to decide which direction we're going to go when it comes to national security. I would argue that's essentially the same thing as national sovereignty, and the argument over illegal immigration and how we're going to address it really is going to set the tone for where we're going to be generations in the future. What do you see from your perspective on that?
I think this is definitely a pivotal moment in history. Thank God we got Trump back in the White House and we have a president willing to actually enforce immigration laws, because under the Biden administration, there was an unconstitutional and unlawful failure to enforce immigration laws that invited 10 to 15 million illegal immigrants in. And now we're seeing the Democrats fighting like heck to keep them in the country because they want all of those congressional seats that they're going to pick up in these blue states if these people that are here illegally get counted in the census in 2030. Many of y'all probably know the census counts all people present, legal or not. And so if California has an extra few million people, they get an extra couple of congressional seats. That's what this is about. The Democrats are trying to import voters, and they're hoping that they can get a repeat of what Reagan did when he was in office. Reagan granted amnesty to all of the illegals in California. And you know what happened after that? That whole state descended into one-party rule. It was Democrats forever, and they got more liberal and more communist and more Marxist. That's what the Democrats are hoping to do on a national level by inviting in a ton of illegals and making it so hard to get rid of them that they think a weak president will just throw up their hands and say, okay, fine, amnesty. They have underestimated Donald J. Trump. He is definitely going to hold the line and be willing to arrest and deport all of them.
Yeah, that's a painful thing to hear, but you're right. I mean, Reagan's my favorite president, but boy, did he mess up on that. That was his most massive mistake, that in making a deal with Tip O'Neill on the tax issue as well. But yeah, Reagan really blew it on that one. All right, Keith Gross, tell me about the book, Dirt Roads to Runways. Got a minute or so left here. That's your book that's out there. And then obviously people can connect with you on social media as well, which we've already tagged you as well. But what are they going to find in Dirt Roads to Runways?
So it's basically a biography. It goes through my childhood and growing up in rural North Florida. I was raised by farmers and humble people. And, the common sense wisdom of everyday America is what folks like Mayor Bass of LA need right now. Liberal logic says it's law enforcement's fault for stopping criminals. The rest of America knows that if you don't hold criminals accountable, you're going to get more crimes. That sort of common sense logic needs to be applied more broadly in the United States if we're going to save America for the next generation.
And you can find that pretty much anywhere books are sold, I would assume, right?
Yep. It's an audiobook on Audible. It's for sale on Amazon. And like I said, anywhere books are sold, you can find me online on X and all social media at Keith Gross FL.
All right, Keith Gross, appreciate that interview. Looks like Roger Stone wrote I'm looking at the Amazon page right now for the book, so I'll put that link out as well. Keith, appreciate the perspective, especially considering you've got both that National Guard and that state's attorney experience as well. This has been helpful.
Anytime. Good to speak with y'all.
All right, thank you so much. All right, once again, that book is called Dirt Roads to Runways. Got some thoughts on that? Let me know. I am putting the link to that in the Rumble chat box as we speak. There it goes. I have not read it, but there's the link to it. The description looks really interesting. All right, 8:47 right now, 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson in the morning
Democrats produce mobs. Republicans produce jobs.
on News Talk STL.
To our brave police officers and first responders, we say thank you for risking your lives to protect us. To all the incredible volunteers who've joined hands with the David Dorn Foundation to raise funds for equipment and services, we extend our heartfelt gratitude. We stand strong with our volunteers who give their time, talent, and dedication as a shield of support for those who rush into danger. The David Dorn Foundation gives a big thank you from our heart to yours. Visit dornfoundation.com and join as a volunteer.
This is Mark Harder with RE/MAX Results, the #1 RE/MAX franchise in the region. As a licensed real estate broker with RE/MAX Results for over 20 years, I've seen the ups and downs of many real estate markets, including the one we're in right now. With the spring market in full swing, now is the time to leap into the buying or selling of your home. Someday is not a day. Today is the day to make your move. Call me at 314-852-8933 or email me at markhardersells@gmail.com.
Military history buffs and collectors, attention. Looking for authentic military collectibles? Look no further than Alamo Military Collectibles, your one-stop shop for genuine military artifacts. Firearms to uniforms, medals to memorabilia, pistols, rifles, bayonets, insignia, patches, helmets, field gear, and more. Both American and foreign pieces. We offer cash or consignment for your items. Alamo Military Collectibles. Visit us online at alamomilitary.com or call 314-638-6505 today.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli, and my favorite sandwich from Capriati's is the Wagyu beef French dip. So good. It's the au jus that makes it. And the Wagyu beef is pretty good, too. I love Capriati's, and you will, too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Vic Porcelli guest hosting while Chris and I are on assignment. I'll be calling in from the DC swamp, and Vic talks to David Stokes of the Show Me Institute at 4:20.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli.
And Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Vic.
Ken and I are on every Monday through Friday here on News Talk STL. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Whoosh, my morning, people.
All right. I don't think parts of St. Louis are going to look like Los Angeles, but other parts of the country might start looking that way, really, frankly, starting today, because some of the Marxist organizers for what happened in LA, and I am 100% comfortable saying there's no way this was spontaneous or organic.
Nope.
This was planned. This is something that was being put together probably weeks ago, just my guess, but it just seems obvious to me that none of this, it just erupted out of nowhere or actually in response to anything. So they're now saying they're going to do these disruptions around the country. They're not promising the violence like in California, but it seems to me that there are agitators who want to make what's happening in LA happen around the country. There are protests and demonstrations planned for this weekend here in St. Louis and actually in the county along Manchester between like De Pere and Ballwood. We'll see whether it's just people holding signs and doing their First Amendment protected things or whether they get stupid.
Yeah, so I was actually tagged in this by one of our listeners right now. And so tomorrow, Wednesday, June 11th, from 3 to 5 p.m., they're having a protest at the Tam Avenue overpass.
Okay.
So in the official website is mobilize.us, and then, the rest of the link.
Yeah.
But I just want to let people know in case you have to commute that way, because that's, again, those are hours where, schools are getting out and people are coming home from work.
Yeah.
If you can help it, it might be worth your time to find an alternative route, because of course with overpasses,
the overpass, if they stay on the overpass, they shouldn't impede too much traffic if they stay there.
And if what they potentially might have with them also stays
Right.
with them and doesn't end up going over the edge, like
Right.
we've seen in videos from LA.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute, because there may be somebody goes, what are you accusing them of? We're watching their comrades in California do exactly that.
Yes.
Throw projectiles, throw cinder blocks, throw whatever they can get their hands on at traffic, particularly law enforcement. So we're seeing that. And so we would be absolutely naive to not say, literally, heads up, beware.
And there are firsthand videos coming out, like cell phone videos. And it's not just law enforcement, it's just traffic in general. Some of these people are throwing stuff at because they want to cause, the vehicles not to continue driving, block up the traffic so law enforcement can't respond. And again, from my firsthand experience going to the Black Lives Matter stuff and seeing how that is, I'm always vigilant when it comes to anything with overpasses, with narrow roads. I'm not trying to, put anybody on high alert.
Right.
I'm not saying to go out there and antagonize. I'm just saying if you know that you're going to be in that area, it might just be worth going to Google, put an alternative route in, and then just kind of avoid that altogether.
Okay, so that's tomorrow. And then on Saturday, there's what they're calling a No Kings anti-Trump protest, which is going to be somewhere on Manchester. looks like in the Baldwin area, maybe De Pere, but in that area right in there. So with Manchester, keep in mind, traffic in Manchester sucks in the best of conditions. And so middle of the day on a Saturday, which is basically when this is planned, that is ripe for something really ugly to happen, even if that's just them blocking traffic. And we've got this small group of agitators in the St. Louis area. Most recently, my guess is there's going to be some crossover because the anti-Semitic protesters, the pro-Hamas protesters, which these are all shades of the same groups.
Yeah.
They really are.
A lot of overlap in that Venn diagram.
A lot of overlap. And so remember, they were shutting down highways in West County. They shut down Delmar. So they look at making your life miserable as their victory. That is their prize. They're not trying to win you over. They want to stoke a fight. That's what they're looking for.
It is absolutely retaliation and punishment for not getting their way. There's no, if this was about convincing us and seeing the merits of whatever they believe, they would not obviously be encouraging and engaging with and celebrating this type of behavior. So I think if I can get some more time, I would love to, or if somebody else has the time out there, to make a little map of where we think these protests are going to be. I believe it was Buck's mom earlier actually said that a lot of these places or people are posting these locations on the Nextdoor apps to help people meet up, but that should also give you an idea of, okay, well, I don't want to be caught up in traffic or whatever. I'll just avoid those areas.
They don't want you to be able to escape. They want you angry. So brace yourself, not even just logistically, like trying to avoid, these areas and not give them the attention or keep your life operating, because they should not dictate. They want to dictate what happens in your life, but brace yourself kind of mentally for that, as well, in case they decide to be. Now, there's only so many of these people around. They're not going to be able to do it to the entire area. Hopefully you're not unlucky enough to get caught up in some of that. If you stay up on the overpass, because, we've seen in the last, year and a half, I mean, we've seen like pro-Trump, demonstrations on overpasses. We've seen anti-Trump demonstrations. We've seen pro-life ones. We've seen pro-abortion. So the overpass tactic, I'm not that worried about if they stay there. Now, depending on the overpass, the police may run you off. They're like, yeah, this is actually a road. You can't be up here, even if you're up on the side. Others are wide enough and big enough that they'll let you, wave your flags and signs and stuff.
And just because I know a lot of people are like, well, arrest them all. No, there is a constitutional right for peaceful assembly if you go about the right methods. And I'm sure if these people are actually doing it properly, the police are going to know who's who, what's what, where they're at. They're going to, so don't immediately look at this as shut them all down, lock them all up. But to your credit, I think the greatest thing we could possibly do is just, if you show up and you're ready to punish us and just nobody there to just you and your knucklehead buddies, they're going to get so upset about that, because it didn't work.
And by the way, if these people are, regardless of what they're saying, if they are within their First Amendment rights and they are not violating your rights and they are not blocking traffic and they are not causing violence, if they are just exercising free speech, the police have a duty to protect them, even if we don't like what they have to say. Exactly. So if you believe in the First Amendment, that's what has to be applied across the board. Now, I may hate the people and I may hate the message, but I love our freedom of speech. Now, if they cross the line and start violating or they start blocking, that's not free speech.
Yes.
Then they should be locked up and thrown in the back of a cruiser. I would do it head first personally. But then at that point, we shouldn't go easy on them. But that's, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it is just another one of the people are angry and they're having their say, and it doesn't turn into something bigger. So some of that'll be up to us, but the agitators would love every city and every community to look like Los Angeles. The left wants the entire country to look like Los Angeles right now.
Don't give them an excuse to play martyr.
Yeah.
Just honk, wave at them, give them the finger, whatever you want to do, and then move on. Like don't be a rooftop Korean or a Kyle Rittenhouse. If it's not your business, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, not both middle fingers unless you're in the passenger seat.
Yes.
One middle finger if you're driving. Don't do both, because then your hands aren't on the wheel. Be safe. Okay. Just saying, be safe.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint by a lot, backed with our 25-year transferable warranty. Paint a house, shield a home. We do brick, block, stucco as